Chapter 529. No matter who it is, they must have roots. Only when they settle down can they live. If they can't even guarantee their own safety, how can they talk about climbing to the peak? I cultivate the way of the emperor and enjoy the admiration of my people and subordinates. They are loyal to me, so I need to protect them. To not be bullied and cultivate the way of the emperor, I need an imperial city to condense the emperor's chi and strengthen myself with it. Only then can I truly climb to the peak of the emperor's path. The demon city must be built. Tion was determined. There were many secrets in the southern barbarian land. For example, the strange tomb in the Demon Valley, the underground ruins, and the endless bones all indicated that there were endless secrets hidden in the southern barbarian land. Although the southern barbarians had always been the foundation, no matter how good the southern barbarians were, it was a place that could explode at any time and cause endless trouble. If they were always in the middle, once the storm swept over, they would be the first to bear the brunt. Once the news of the tomb in the valley spread out, the entire southern barbarian land would become the center of a terrible storm on the spot. The storm would sweep over at any time. A strong sense of crisis made him have to find a real place to live for himself, for his relatives, and for the demons who followed him. The demon city was such a holy land. In any case, he could not give up. He must really build it at the fastest speed. I set up the human tribe. Those who dare to plot against the God's Fall Abyss must be extremely terrible forces. Although I did it very secretly, there is no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. Sooner or later, it will be found out. Once it is found out, I will be in danger. All this is to build the city. I can't afford to make any mistakes. Tion secretly steeled himself in his heart and walked into the demon city. When the demons saw him, they all bowed and greeted him respectfully. With a slight gesture, he asked them to get up and continue to build the city. Then he walked to the jade pool. In the jade pool, beautiful palace maids in court dresses were busy. In the air, the virgin fragrance of young girls and the fragrance of flowers mixed together and drifted into the nose, which had a unique charm. In the jade pool, the five-colored soil was used as the soil, and all kinds of exotic flowers and plants were planted there. With Chun-Shi, the goddess of flowers, around, the flowers bloomed especially brightly. Chun-Shi even divided the jade pool into several areas. One was the 100 Herb Garden, and the other was the 100 Flower Garden. The 100 Herb Garden was used to grow some precious spirit herbs. The Flower Garden was used to grow flowers. With the addition of flowers and plants, the originally lifeless jade pool naturally became lively. This servant greets the king. As soon as he entered the jade pool, the palace maids inside immediately greeted him. "Get up. Where is the demon empress?" Tion asked casually. "The demon empress is currently planting the peach trees in the peach garden. Please follow this subordinate," a maidservant said respectfully. "Oh, Immortality Peach Garden?" A bright light flashed in Tion's eyes. He couldn't help but find it funny. It seemed that he was building the heavenly court described in the myths of his previous life. The Jade Lake and the Peach Garden really did have that kind of momentum. After muttering to himself, he nodded and asked the maidservant to lead the way. The Jade Pool wasn't small. There were many palaces and pavilions inside. Clouds drifted around, and it was like a fairyland. If it was an ordinary person, they might not be able to walk out of here after 9 days and 9 nights. However, for Tion, it was a very easy thing. Shuttling through, they passed by the 100 Herb Garden and the 100 Flower Garden. There were many kinds of spirit herbs and flowers planted there. Even the air was filled with a rich fragrance, which made people feel refreshed. After entering the Peach Garden, at first glance, Tion's first impression was that it was very spacious. The soil on the ground was newly laid. The soil was divided into 5 colors. The soil contained rich power of the 5 elements. When spread out, it could absorb the power of the world and form new power of the 5 elements. It grew and multiplied endlessly. It made the surrounding soil abnormally fertile. It was very suitable for all kinds of spirit herbs to grow. The 5-colored soil was second only to the living soil of the 9 heavens. The five-colored soil contained the power of the five elements, while the living soil of the nine heavens contained the power of primordial chaos. That was the true secret of the soil. Since he couldn't find the living soil of the nine heavens, he could only use the five-colored soil as a substitute. Looking at the garden, the first thing that attracted his attention was the immortal peach sapling that had been sent in earlier. This sapling had its roots in the soil and was greedily absorbing nutrients. It was growing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. The sapling was growing crazily inch by inch. Before long, it had grown from a sapling into a mature immortality peach tree. Peach blossoms bloomed on the tree, making for a very beautiful sight. This is, even with D. Shirtian's temperament, he couldn't help but gasp at the sight of it. It was almost as if he was dreaming. He found it hard to believe that a sapling could grow into a mature immortality peach tree in such a short period of time. Furthermore, it was blooming with peach blossoms. This speed was simply too fast. After all, this was a natural spiritual root. Natural spiritual roots were known for their slow growth. The scene before him defied all common sense. TSK, what's so strange about it? This is normal. There are many things you don't know, Madman D. This time, Dark seized the opportunity and began to complain proudly. I was wondering how a natural spiritual root could only be a seedling. It turns out that it was sealed under the power of the money tree in the treasure basin. Its power was sealed and turned into a seedling. It hung on the money tree and absorbed the power of the endless treasures. This immortality peach tree has accumulated a tremendous amount of power for countless years. Now that the immortality peach tree has taken root in the soil, the seal on it has been broken. This is its true form. You've really found a treasure, Madman D. Dark yelled excitedly. The immortality peach tree has absorbed a tremendous amount of power during these years. It will grow at a high speed. The time it takes to bloom and bear fruits will be shortened greatly. I'm afraid it won't even take 1,000 years for the immortality peach tree to ripen for the first time. Phew! Gently exhaling a breath from his chest, Indra's eyes were already filled with joy as he muttered, "The treasure that fell from the money tree is indeed extraordinary. I thought it would take tens of thousands of years for it to bear fruit. I didn't expect to get a mature immortality peach tree right away. With this, my immortality peach garden will no longer be a dream in the future." He looked up and saw a beautiful and perfect figure standing under the immortality peach tree, quietly watching the earth-shattering transformation of the immortality peach tree. It was Dawn. This is a connate spirit root. Once it's planted here, all the spiritual energy in the world will gather in the peach garden. It will suppress the power of heaven and earth. Shirtian, where did you find it? A natural spiritual root is a treasure that even the most powerful experts can't find. It's comparable to a natural spiritual treasure. Chunshi was delighted to see D. Shirtian. She looked at him curiously. She asked, a treasure like this was a real treasure. Even if one used a natural spiritual treasure to exchange for it, they might not be willing. This was a chicken that could lay eggs. It fell from the sky. D. Shirtian smiled faintly and walked forward. He reached out and held Chun-Shi's slender waist. They stood in front of the immortality peach tree and looked around. There wasn't only one immortality peach tree in the immortality peach garden. There were many other types of peach trees. They were all different, but each had its own magical aspects. For example, the ghost-face peach tree, the immortal peach tree, the fire dragon peach tree, the seven-star peach tree, and so on. There were more than 10 types of peach trees, all of which were obtained from the hands of the demons during the promotion of the demon coins. Each had its own magical aspects. For example, when the flaming dragon peach tree bore fruits, there would be a flaming dragon swimming within the peach. If one swallowed it, there would be countless benefits. When the seven-star peach tree bore fruits, there would be a seven-star constellation on the surface, and they contained a strange power of the stars. Wait a minute. Although the immortality peach garden was big, there were many varieties. Once it developed, This place would truly become a gathering place for immortality peaches in the future. Xiao Chun stayed quietly with Chun Shi in the immortality peach garden for a while. They talked about some intimate things. The atmosphere was very warm. After a long time, Chun Shi raised her head in Di Shirtian's arms. She regained her calmness and said, Shirtian, how are your preparations for the 10,000 treasure Scarlet Tide? Tian Can and Huang Quan are the key. You should be more careful. Everything is built on that great Inyang Bridge. Tian Can and Huang Quan have my 100 generations slave imprint in them. There is no need to worry about their loyalty. The real problem is how long the great Inyang Bridge can last in the 10,000 treasure Scarlet Tide with the cultivation they have recovered. Every additional minute will result in immeasurable gains. Di Shirtian's eyes flashed. The key was that the two elders were almost completely crippled by Ziyu. His cultivation had been reduced by 80 to 90%. Even their inner worlds were almost broken. Although they were recovering at an extremely fast speed with the support of all kinds of spiritual items, it was still too early for the 10,000 treasure Scarlet Tide. It was impossible for them to recover completely. They probably couldn't even recover half of it. This was also where his concerns lay. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. In the God's Fall abyss, the spirits of the monsters were almost at their peak. Their eyes were shining. The four armies had also refined the inescapable trap and were ready for anything. The Monster Kings still spent most of their time immersed in cultivation. Di Shirtian was sometimes in the abyss and sometimes in the Linglong Pagoda with Chun Shi. On this day, the God's Fall abyss, which was originally silent, suddenly emitted a unique aura. Whoosh! Gusts of wind blew in the air without warning. Terrifying roars of the wind followed one after another. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 530. This kind of wind was nothing at first. It just made the group of monsters feel a little strange. In the God's Fall abyss, there had never been a natural phenomenon of wind and rain. The sudden appearance of wind surprised the group of monsters. However, the wind didn't stop after it started. Instead, it kept increasing at a speed that could be felt clearly. It was as if it was going to stack up and become a hurricane. The strangest thing was that this kind of wind didn't blow outside. It swept directly into the deepest part of the God's Fall abyss. It was as if a terrible demon was waking up in the depths of the abyss. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the entire world. An invisible force was guiding the wind into the depths of the abyss. This kind of rebellious scene alarmed Sakura and those demon kings who were immersed in cultivation on the spot. They all woke up. They stood up and looked at the wind in surprise. What's going on? There has never been a storm in the God's Fall abyss. What's this wind? The white fox furrowed its brows as it glanced at the wild wind outside of its body. The wild wind carried a rather strong force. If it were a normal person, it would probably send them flying into the sky on the spot. However, for a group of demons, it was unable to shake their bodies at all. Walking to Sakura's side, various thoughts flashed through the white fox's mind, and wisps of light of wisdom appeared. Suddenly, it was as if a divine light flashed past, and it was startled as if it had guessed something. She looked at Di Shirtian's face, as if asking for confirmation. The God's Fall abyss is one of the 9 forbidden lands of the origin. There has never been a change in the 4 seasons. There is no wind, rain, thunder, or lightning. But now, there is a gust of wind. The gust is not blowing outside. It is blowing into the depths of the abyss. The gust of wind is strangely emerging from the void. Sakura took a deep breath, and his face naturally revealed a steady and dignified aura as he said wisely, "In that case, as expected, the myriad treasure Scarlet Tide is already coming soon." Million treasure red tide? The eyes of the Monster Kings lit up at the same time. There seemed to be a ball of fire burning in their eyes. "Ha, it's here. It's finally here. That's right, this must be the legendary myriad treasures Crimson Tide." Dark laughed wildly and yelled, "The wind is blowing out from the void. It's not an ordinary wind. It's the flood of the million treasure red tide. This wind is coming from all over the universe. It's a money tree. It must be them calling all the ownerless treasures in the universe. Only their power can cover the universe and lead all the treasures to the abyss. Crazy Emperor, hurry up and get ready. If I'm not mistaken, this is the flood of the 10,000 treasures scarlet tide. This flood will last for 3 days. 3 days later, the scarlet tide will truly arrive. Countless treasures will roll in like waves. That scene will definitely be incomparably majestic. Hurry up and get ready. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You have to get the most out of it. Di Shirtian's heart tightened. He raised his voice and ordered, "All demons, prepare for battle." Understood. The demons replied respectfully. Their voices were full of energy and vigor. Heavenly Silkworm and Yellow Spring Elders. Sakura opened his mouth again and called out to the void. In the void, there was a strange distortion. In the distorted void, 2 figures appeared directly behind Di Shirtian. Tiankin was in a snow-white robe, while Huang Quan was in a black robe. When they stood together, they looked like the black and white impermanence. When they appeared, there was no sound at all. It was as if they had appeared behind Yi Qingyu the moment he finished speaking. There was a hint of strangeness. Tiankin and Huang Quan greet your majesty. Under the influence of the lifetime slave seal, Tiankin and Huang Quan did not have the slightest resistance to the change in their identities. They completely regarded themselves as servants. They were loyal and devoted. They would not hesitate even if Yi Qingyu wanted their lives. They bowed respectfully to Di Shirtian. However, their appearance instantly caused the eyes of the demon kings to contract violently. Who are these 2 elders? Why didn't I notice that there was such a strong person by Tian Fa's side? If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have noticed it even if it appeared beside me. Who are they? Why do I suddenly have a feeling of oppression? Even breathing is suffocating. I've never felt this way before. Danger. Strong people. What is going on? Why do I have the feeling that as long as they want to, they can easily kill me? They are actually so respectful to Di Shirtian. They even address him as their master. How many trump cards does Tian Fa have that she hasn't revealed yet? The moment Tiankin and Huang Quan appeared, the heavenly demon aura emitted from their bodies shook the hearts of the demon kings. Their minds were filled with thoughts, and their expressions could not help but become a little ugly. After all, in front of a superior, there would always be an unimaginable pressure. Even if their strength was greatly reduced, no one could erase their powerful identity as heavenly demons. In her conjecture, she had an even more unfathomable feeling toward Sakura. To think that he could casually send out 2 powerhouses of unknown strength. That was simply too monstrous. As for what the demon kings were thinking, Di Shirtian did not care. He directly asked the 2 elders, "The flood has arrived. In 3 days, the 10,000 treasures Crimson Tide will begin. How are your preparations?" "Please rest assured, your majesty. We will do our best to help your majesty obtain the treasures." "Good." Di Shirtian nodded, relieved. Without caring about the cost, he poured all sorts of spirit herbs into the 2 elders. Their strength was recovering at an inconceivable rate, and their injuries were gradually recovering. By now, they had recovered their greater demon cultivation base, and their battle prowess was comparable to peak greater demons. Unfortunately, the damage to their foundation during the suppression was too great. It was already a kind of limit for them to recover their greater demon strength in such a short time with only the power of spirit herbs. In the future, their injuries could not be healed by spirit herbs. They could only rely on themselves to recover bit by bit. Even so, greater demons were already heavyweight existences. They had already met Di Shirtian's expectations. Whoosh! In the God's Fall abyss, the wind grew stronger and stronger. The wind directly swept up the countless bones on the ground, fluttering wildly. In the depths of the abyss, there were bursts of dazzling golden light constantly bursting out from the treasure bowl. Countless rays of golden light shot out, directly penetrating the void and penetrating the heavens. Countless rays of treasure light flashed wildly. That was the treasure light emitted by the treasure bowl. This was not an ordinary treasure light, but the treasure-gathering divine light. It penetrated through all the worlds and swept across everything in the world. Under this divine light, any treasures that didn't have an owner, as long as they weren't restricted by a powerful force, would follow the divine light and gather in the God-falling abyss. The rustling sound came from the money tree. In an instant, the countless tree leaves on the money tree danced wildly, as if they had gone mad. Waves of crisp sounds came from the sky. As the money tree danced, it stirred up the void. Gusts of strange wind rushed out of the void and disappeared. At the same time, gusts of strange wind emerged from the void and gathered towards the money tree. It was as if there was a magical power on the money tree that was summoning countless treasures to guide them on their path. This was the money tree's magic power of attracting wealth and bringing in treasures. Desire. A strong desire came from the treasure bowl and the money tree, a desire to gather endless treasures. It was like a mother calling out to her children, forming a strange connection with all the treasures in the world. That's right, the myriad treasures Crimson Tide. This was a sign that the myriad treasures Crimson Tide was about to arrive. Under the call of the treasure bowl and the money tree, countless gusts of wind were the tide of the Crimson Tide. Woo-woo! At the same time, terrifying gusts of wind roared in the sky above Crimson Tide Island outside the abyss. The wind is rising. Look, the wind is blowing toward the God's Fall abyss. There's a change. After waiting here for a few months, there's finally a change. Is the myriad treasures Crimson Tide about to start? When the wind rose, the countless cultivators gathered on Crimson Tide Island, and even outside the island felt as if a bucket of oil had been poured into their burning hearts. The vines were completely set ablaze. The number of cultivators gathered here was almost uncountable, and all of them were duped here by D. Shirtion. The eyes of all the cultivators on the 3 inner and 3 outer layers were completely focused on the God's Fall abyss. The connate 2 elements dust formation, which the 10 major immortal sects had spent countless efforts and wealth to refine, was activated to the limit and turned into a huge golden bridge that crossed the void. This golden bridge was so substantial that it directly suppressed the God's Fall abyss. Under the golden bridge, the world of the abyss was extremely clear. As long as one passed through it, they could enter directly. However, there had been no abnormality in the abyss all this time. At this moment, the gusts of wind stirred up the hearts of countless cultivators on the spot. This is the tide. The Crimson Tide is about to start. In the immortal palace that stood tall in the clouds, the sect masters of the 10 major immortal sects, who had been resting with their eyes closed, suddenly opened their eyes. Their eyes seemed to be able to see the scene outside the immortal palace. A light flashed in their eyes at the same time. As the sect masters of the 10 major immortal sects, they had a clear understanding of the myriad treasures Crimson Tide. Naturally, they knew that the wind in front of them was not an ordinary wind, but a sign of the arrival of the tide. The sect master of the Taishian sect did not open his eyes until all the sect masters opened their eyes. His eyes were as deep as a black hole. There was no fluctuation at all. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 531. The moment he opened his eyes, the hall became silent for a while. It was as if all the light was concentrated on him. Glancing around the hall, the sect leader of the Supreme Mystery Sect slowly said, "The red tide will officially begin in 3 days. This red tide, as before, will last for a day. Now, the God's Fall Abyss is suppressed by our formation map, and the plan that has been planned for thousands of years is about to be reaped." While they were speaking, the various sect masters quietly listened. No one opened their mouths to interrupt. However, each of them naturally had their own plans in their hearts. According to our agreement back then, When the red tide comes, all sects will use their own means to seek benefits from the red tide. Life and death will depend on fate, and the amount of benefits will depend on their own magical means. After the red tide, no matter who it is, they're not allowed to kill each other and crush each other. We are all allied sects and will face the upcoming annihilation tide together. The sect leader of the Supreme Mystery Sect said calmly, as if he was reiterating some kind of agreement. His voice fell. The sect leader of the Tianji sect nodded and agreed, "Good." The agreement back then was sworn by our respective sections. Whoever dares to violate it will be attacked by the other 9 sections. The sect leader of the Xuanqin sect said with a clear voice, "Righteous. Of course. How many treasures we can seize depends on our own magical means." The sect leader of the righteous sect also nodded and said elegantly, to show his attitude. The other sect leaders naturally would not have any objections. No one wanted to be on guard against the spying of other powerful forces when seizing treasures. They all agreed. After that, they all left. In the blink of an eye, only the sect leader of the Supreme Mystery Sect was left in the hall. Obviously, the other sect leaders were all in a hurry to go back and arrange what to do when the tooth tide arrived. They instructed how to seize the treasures in the red tide, and even began to integrate the sections. They were going to go all out and do a big job in this red tide. After the sect leaders left, a young man with a transcendent aura walked in. He came in front of the sect leader, bowed respectfully, and said, "Sect leader, everything has been prepared in the sect. However, if you want to use the sect's most precious treasure, the Kingdom of Eternity, you will need to go there personally and open the Kingdom of Eternity." "Yes." The sect leader of the Supreme Mystery Sect raised his eyes to look at the young man in front of him. He nodded indifferently and said, "There's no need to rush. The Kingdom of Eternity is the strongest of the 10 divine artifacts in the world. It's a divine artifact that has been suppressing our sect's fortune for a long time. The Patriarch gathered countless experts and spent endless effort to create it. It should be able to withstand the impact of the 10,000 treasures Crimson Tide for a short while." "Yes, Sect Master." As soon as the tide came, the cultivators on Scarlet Tide Island were completely excited. Their blood was boiling, as if they could see the legendary 10,000 treasures Scarlet Tide. However, at this moment, some of the forces spying in the dark began to nervously prepare. Underneath, it could be said that undercurrents were surging. It might not be apparent on the surface, but once it erupted, it would definitely be a terrifying storm. It could tear everything apart. At the same time, there were also some hidden experts. They were communicating with each other in the void through their divine thoughts. As they spoke, they would occasionally mention the word divine artifact. When they did, even their tone was extremely different, revealing an extremely fearful expression. In this world, divine artifacts did not seem to be part of the list of treasures. Divine artifact? This word, in the first impression, would most likely be associated with the once powerful divine path. After all, the divine artifacts refined by the divine path cultivators were all called divine artifacts. In divine artifacts, there was often a very mysterious power. It was the law, the rule, and some kind of mysterious power of the great Tao. The power of faith was formed by the convergence of incense and willpower. However, in today's world, there were not many who really knew the inside story of the word divine artifact. In the void, there were 2 figures hidden, quietly watching Crimson Tide Island below. Demon King, look in this myriad treasure Crimson Tide. Who will gain the most benefits? Hee. It's rare that Deshir Tian Kid has the courage to directly disrupt the plan that the 10 immortal sects have been plotting for thousands of years. I don't know if that little guy can get what he wants and get the most benefits. The know-it-all, who was dressed very sloppily, smiled a little strangely as he drank wine and rolled his eyes. He said to the cold-looking Demon King beside him, "Since the 10 immortal sects dare to set their eyes on fallen God Abyss, they must have a perfect plan. They can gain benefits from the Crimson Tide. As for that kid surnamed D, although he is very talented and has obtained the supreme treasure that misused back then, it will be difficult for him to gain any benefits. Difficult. Difficult. The Demon King raised his eyelids and glanced at the know-it-all. He opened his mouth and spat out a sentence. TSK, TSK, Demon King. It seems that you still don't know this kid, surnamed D. This old man has seen this kid with my own eyes and witnessed how he rose to his current level. If he didn't have a firm grasp of the situation, he would never interfere in the plan of the 10 immortal sections. Moreover, he is the king chosen by your Mississippi. Could it be that you still doubt your Mrs. Vision? The know-it-all said in a mocking tone. He looked at the Demon King with interest. Humph! The Demon King snorted and looked up at the void. Miss is Miss, and D. Shirtion is D. Shirtion. How can he be compared to Miss? Miss is destined to be in existence above all living things, immortal and indestructible. He seemed to be a little dissatisfied with the know-it-all's comparison of D. Shirtion with the Miss he mentioned. It was as if one was a toad on the ground, and the other was a proud white swan in the sky. Know-it-all smiled playfully and did not continue to argue with him on this topic. He changed the topic and said, speaking of the 10 great immortal sects, if I'm not wrong, I'm afraid that they plan to use the divine artifacts of their respective sections. As he said that, his eyes shone, and he secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. TSK, TSK. Speaking of which, the 10 divine artifacts and their sects are really amazing. It is said that each of them is comparable to the power of a natural spiritual treasure. They are supreme treasures formed by the fusion of the essence of the immortal path and the divine path. 10 great divine artifacts? The Demon King frowned slightly when he heard that. It seemed that he didn't have much impression of these divine artifacts. He looked at the know-it-all with some doubt. The know-it-all network was indeed an extraordinary person who knew everything in the world. When he saw the demonic monarch's expression, he knew that the demonic monarch did not know much about the 10 great divine tools. He was not stingy with his words and leisurely said, "That's right. The 10 great divine tools are the true, strongest foundation of the 10 great immortal sects, the supreme treasures of their sections. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the 10 great divine artifact with my own eyes, so I don't know their true power. I only know some of their legends." The know-it-all's face showed a touch of regret. However, in this red tide, if nothing unexpected happened, he should be able to see it with his own eyes. This made his mood recover in the blink of an eye. It is said that among the 10 great divine artifacts, the first one is the eternal kingdom of the Supreme Mystery Sect. It is said that the eternal kingdom is a perfect kingdom. In it, there is no birth, old age, sickness, and death. There is no emotional distress. Once inside, one can forget all the unpleasant things. This is only on the surface. As for its true power, it has never been shown in front of outsiders. Next is the supreme treasure of the Celestial Arcanum sect, the Celestial Arcanum Compass. It is said that this divine artifact has the powerful ability to calculate the secrets of the heavens. It can find a flaw in any attack and easily resolve it. It can deduce the secrets of the heavens with incomparable accuracy. The Xian Tian treasure box of the Xian Xin sect has extremely terrifying power. The supreme treasure of the righteous sect is the Righteous Book of Righteousness. The know-it-all had a mysterious ability to obtain countless secret information. Regarding the secrets of the 10 great immortal sects, the sect's divine artifacts were also very familiar with them. He described them one by one. Almost all of the 10 great immortal sects had a divine artifact. Not only did it protect the sect's fortune, it was also the sect's supreme treasure. Usually, no one would easily see it. It was said that each divine artifact's power was comparable to a connate spiritual treasure. As for whether it was true or not, no one would know without a comparison. But how could something that the 10 great immortal sects valued so much be an ordinary treasure? TSK, TSK, based on the plan of the 10 great immortal sects, is almost certain that they want to seize the treasures in the million treasures Crimson Tide by relying on the power of the divine artifacts of their respective sections. The know-it-all teased with a smile. I just don't know which one is stronger, the divine artifact or the crimson tide that can crush even the most powerful. The million treasures crimson tide is unstoppable. The demon lord slightly creased his brow and spat out these words. Indeed, only those who had seen the million treasures crimson tide with their own eyes would truly understand the terror of the crimson tide. It was like a tsunami in the ordinary world or a hurricane. The crimson tide, on the other hand, indicated that the treasures in the crimson tide could make everyone's eyes turn red in an instant. On the other hand, it indicated a kind of bloodshed. Any living thing that stood in the way of the crimson tide, whether ordinary or powerful, would be crushed into powder. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Moreover, there were countless soldier spirits in it, which made the crimson tide even more terrifying. Let's wait and see. The know-it-all smiled meaningfully. 3 days was not a long time for cultivators. Usually, it was just a seclusion. In the blink of an eye, it would disappear before their eyes. It couldn't be any shorter. But at this moment, all the cultivators waiting on the Crimson Tide Island felt that these 3 days were extremely long and torturous. The waiting time was always the longest. However, no matter how slow it was, it still slowly passed by everyone. It's finally here. In the abyss, Sakura looked at the gale outside his body that was getting stronger and stronger. When he felt that 3 days had passed, he couldn't help but exhale a mouthful of turbid air in his heart. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 532. Countless gusts of wind gushed out from the void. The entire abyss seemed to be in the eye of storm. The center of the storm was the location of the treasure bowl and the money tree. Shirtian, will we succeed? Baihu looked at the strong gusts of wind and stood beside Di Shirtian. Her left hand involuntarily grabbed his arm and held it tightly. She bit her lower lip and looked at the void. When this moment arrived, the unimaginable tension and pressure made even a demon king like the white fox feel as if her heart was thumping violently. Myriad Treasure Scarlet Tide. This was the Myriad Treasure Scarlet Tide. The 10,000 treasure Crimson Tide, which no one had dared to touch for tens of thousands of years, was now filled with treasures that were as huge as the sea. Just thinking about it was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Especially now, they were coveting the Myriad Treasure Scarlet Tide. That feeling was even more unnerving. Di Shirtian's eyes were filled with unwavering confidence. He said firmly, "Yes, we will succeed. This will be the opportunity for our monster race to rise. The gears of fate are unstoppable." He was brimming with confidence. It was as if there was a strange power that could influence others. Looking at his confident demeanor, the white fox's nervousness involuntarily dissipated. It was as if it had really seen the dawn of success in front of its eyes. We will succeed. We have to succeed. Under the surface of Sakura's self-confidence, there was an incomparably firm heart. His strong belief made him absolutely not allow any mistakes in this plan. As the saying goes, man proposes and God disposes. Even if God wants to stop me, I will still poke a big hole in the sky. Di Shirtian clenched his fist tightly. Success or failure depended on this one move. No matter what, he had to fight with his life. All troops, listen to my order. Under the illusory air of the mirage, we can cover our tracks. Without orders, no monster race is allowed to leave their positions. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy. Indra coldly issued a command to the entire demon army, including the subordinates brought by the demon kings. Within that command, there was a coldness and killing intent that caused one's heart to turn cold. All the demons couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts at the same time. Their minds flashed with the image of Di Shirtian being able to remain undefeated against several demon kings in the southern barbarian lands. Their faces were solemn at the same time, and they replied in unison, "We respect the Tian Fa Demon King's edict." The demonic beasts retracted their auras and began to circulate their cultivation techniques. They could feel the stifling pressure in the air. The place Tirtian chose for the demons to set up camp was only 10,000 miles away from the treasure basin and the money tree. It was extremely close. He had chosen this location precisely because he had calculated that when all kinds of treasures from all over the heavens and realms were drawn over, the crimson tide would converge here and form a torrent. By blocking here, he would be able to completely enclose the crimson tide of myriad treasures within the range of plunder. Although I have schemed against the human race once, the human race is plotting against the God's fall abyss. Their strength on the surface is nothing to worry about, but the mastermind behind it must be an unimaginable giant. Plus, I have disrupted the plan and let the entire cultivation world know about the plan of this red tide. They will definitely flock here. I don't know how many masters will follow. The red tide will sweep across the heavens, but due to the influence of the treasure basin and the money tree, the real place where it will appear is in the abyss. Outside the abyss, there won't be too much of a difference. Tirtian said in a deep voice, so I guess that when the tide is over, there will immediately be countless masters and cultivators pouring into the abyss. Under the illusory air of the mirage, we can hide and not move. First, we will see how the other forces fight against the red tide. We will go and plunder the amazing wealth in one fell swoop. Divine Law, you can make all the decisions. Rock Demon King did not hesitate to let go of the power and handed it over to Tirtian. That's right. We are here to let the demon race have a share in this feast. I'm not good at this. Everything depends on Brother Divine Law, Blood Dragon King also said with a smile. All the demon kings expressed their opinions. For a moment, the demons completely twisted into a rope before the arrival of the red tide. They had to gather their strength in one direction. The power gathered was naturally extraordinary. The red tide emerged from the void in the abyss along with the hurricane. Although the 10 immortal sects had stabilized the abyss, if they wanted to take the treasures, they still had to enter the abyss to have a chance. Let the human race test the waters first. At the last moment, I will intercept the greatest benefits here. Tirtian thought to himself. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to observe the real strength of the human tribe. He wanted to know what kind of power the real, peerless divine skills possessed by the experts were. All of this would be the most valuable wealth in the future. Experience was not something that could be made up for with wealth. The wind has stopped. Suddenly, the hurricane that had swept up the bones on the ground stopped without any sign. The fierce wind disappeared without a trace in an instant, as if it had never appeared. It was inexplicably shocking. However, such a scene caused the hearts of Sakura and the other demon kings to tighten. They could clearly feel the incomparably oppressive aura emanating from the void. This is the calm before the storm. Feeling the deathly stillness in the air, such a thought flashed through their minds. This scene did not represent calm. Instead, it indicated that the red tide was coming. The tide has stopped. The red tide is finally beginning. Ming also opened his eyes wide at this moment. He nervously paid attention to every movement outside, afraid that he would miss a moment of excitement. Thump! Thump! A strange sound similar to a heartbeat suddenly came from the void. Outside the abyss on the Red Tide Island, countless cultivators opened their eyes wide. Their eyes were shining brightly as they paid close attention to the movement in the abyss. Countless cultivators had gathered on the Red Tide Island. At this moment, there was a strange, deathly silence on the Red Tide Island. They listened to the strange heartbeat. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying roar came from the void. It swept violently into the ears of countless cultivators like a tidal wave. Look, what is that? Some cultivators were alarmed and turned to look outside in horror. My God, treasure light, such a strong treasure light. There is so much of it that I can't count. It's a treasure, it's a treasure. They must have been summoned by the treasure bowl and money tree. These are the countless lost treasures of our violet gold continent. They can cover the sky and split the sun. It's too huge. Such a strong treasure light. I'm not dreaming, right? It's not just the purple gold land. Look at the astral space. My God, there's so many treasures coming here from the stars. The red tide, the million treasures red tide has begun. Treasures, so many treasures. Just how many treasures are needed to form such a scale? I feel like I'm looking at the waves of the ocean. On the continent, on the stars, oh my God, there are so many treasures that I can't even count them. Tens of millions of treasures, or even billions of treasures. And this is just the purple gold continent. If all the treasures in the universe were to gather here, what kind of scene would that be? I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. Countless cultivators shouted crazily. Their eyes shone with dazzling light as they howled. In the sky outside the red tide island, a colorful treasure light burst out like the sun in the darkness. Those were the treasures that burst out the treasure light when they were stimulated by the treasure basin and the money tree. These rare treasures were gathering from all over the purple gold land. There were precious treasures, broken weapons, and countless natural treasures that had been collected from the desolate land that had not been discovered yet. They were all gathering in the sky near the red tide island. They flowed endlessly, forming huge divine dragons made of precious treasures in the world. There were also countless treasures from the stars in the astral space. These treasures also gathered like rivers flowing into the sea. They poured into the group of treasures and covered the entire void. In the void, an unimaginable land of treasures was formed. Don't think that the stars in the astral space were just decorations. Every star had an extremely vast space and vast land. There were countless planets that were suitable for living. On these planets, there were also countless humans, as well as all kinds of strange races. There were also cultivators and experts. At this moment, when the power of the treasure basin and the money tree summoned the countless treasures from the purple gold land, they also didn't miss the countless treasures on the stars. As the center of the universe, the origin continent was so vast that almost no one knew how vast it was. It was immeasurably large. Now that the countless treasures were gathered together, it really was like a sea of rare treasures had appeared before everyone's eyes. The million treasures red tide gathered the treasures from all over the universe. Among them, the origin continent accounted for 1/3 of the red tide. The treasures are gathering and surging. It's really going to form a red tide and a tsunami. Countless treasures that can't be seen in a lifetime. All of them are mine. Go, all of these treasures are ours. If we can get one, from now on, we individual cultivators won't have to give in to those big sections. I have a great opportunity. I have the mandate of heaven. The mandate of heaven is definitely on my side. I want to become a rich man. All of these treasures are mine. Treasures bewitched people. Looking at the sky full of treasures, which was almost like an ocean, countless cultivators gathered on the red tide island were immediately replaced by boundless desire. Reason had long been thrown to the back of their minds. Emitting a crazy light, they used all kinds of methods to rush toward the sea of treasures in the void. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 533. They had thought it through. The scarlet tide had not formed yet, so it would not be as terrifying as the scarlet tide. The danger would definitely be much lower. If they encounter the scarlet tide, they might not stand a chance. However, the scarlet tide had not formed yet, so it was the best opportunity to seize the treasures. If they did not act now, when would they have the chance? When countless rogue cultivators saw the treasures that were as large as the ocean, they threw everything aside. All they could see was the endless sea of treasures. All they could think of was a crazy desire to possess the treasures. Immediately, over 1 million cultivators rushed toward the void. Furthermore, as time passed, the number of cultivators continued to grow. Snatch, snatch, snatch. It belongs to whoever snatches it. There are so many treasures, I can't even count them all. I'm rich. I'm really rich this time. When I get the treasures, those who look down on me before will all be trampled under my feet. Haha, the treasures are all mine. Frenzied shouts could be heard, reverberating in the void. It attracted the attention of countless cultivators. Their eyes were fixed on the cultivators who were rushing up. They still had some sense in them and wanted others to rush up first to see if there was any danger. If there was no danger, then they would go up first. If there was danger, then they would rather die than die. No matter who you are, the sooner you die, the sooner you can ascend. Among them, those who were hiding in the dark, including the 10 great immortal sects, did not have the slightest intention of moving. Instead, there was a hint of mockery in their eyes. They did not care about the pitiful cultivators outside who were captivated by the treasures. They turned around and rushed into the God's Fall abyss that was fixed by the Golden Bridge. They entered the abyss. Not only that, but many experts did not care about the treasure tide that was gathering outside. They just rushed into the abyss as if they did not care about the endless treasures. This abnormal behavior also attracted many cultivators who had their eyes on them. When they saw this, their eyes lit up. They understood and followed into the abyss without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. The treasure tide in the void was still gathering. Countless cultivators swarmed over and used all kinds of methods to obtain 1 or 2 treasures in the sea of treasures. However, they had just reached the edge of the treasure tide. A boundless pressure pressed down on them like tide water. Countless treasures emitted a shocking aura. In just an instant, countless treasures could be seen vibrating within the tide of treasures. Countless sword chi swept across the sky, covering the heavens and earth. Tens of thousands of treasures smashed towards Lin Fan's head. A terrifying aura pierced through heaven and earth. Bang, bang, bang. The sword chi was so sharp that even the void was shattered, shattering the void. Everywhere it passed, everything was turned into dust. The offensive power of the sword light was so strong that it could shake the void. Each of these sword lights could kill immortals, mincing them into pieces. If those magical treasures smashed into one's body, even immortal kings might not be able to withstand them. 1 or 2 attacks weren't scary. What was scary was the attacks that covered the sky and covered the earth like a violent storm. Millions of cultivators were blasted into smithereens in the blink of an eye amidst cries of agony. Fresh blood splattered across the sky and was sucked into the treasure tide. In an instant, the treasure light that filled the sky gradually turned crimson red. It was the color of blood. The crimson tide was a terrifying disaster. Everyone who stood in front of it would add color to the crimson tide. The crimson tide wasn't called the treasure tide because it carried a strong smell of blood. Whoosh! In just an instant, millions of cultivators were turned into dust by the treasure tide that filled the sky. Countless cultivators who saw it couldn't help but be shocked. They only felt a chill in their hearts as they looked at the tempting treasures in horror. The desire that rose in their minds was as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over their heads. It chilled them from the top of their heads to the bottom of their hearts. Millions of cultivators were annihilated just like that. A cultivator pointed at the treasure tide in disbelief and muttered in a daze. How terrifying! Could this be the true power of the 10,000 treasures crimson tide? Millions of cultivators, many of whom were tribulation transcendence powerhouses, couldn't even last a second in front of the treasure tide with their domains. No wonder even the ancient giants couldn't block the treasure tide. If they stood in front of it, they would be crushed into dust. My goodness, that sword light, those treasures, it's too terrifying. It can crush everything. It's almost unstoppable. How are we going to get the treasures inside? Going forward is simply suicide. There's so many treasures inside. I'm afraid that if we go in, even our souls won't be able to escape and will be crushed. Discussions gathered above the crimson tide island like a tide. They were all shocked by the power of the crimson tide and didn't dare to act rashly. There were also many cultivators who were worried or even timid and directly left the crimson tide island, wanting to give up the idea of getting a share of the treasure. The crimson blood woke up many cultivators who had been blinded by lust. They understood that the crimson tide wasn't something they could touch. It wasn't worth it to lose their lives and not get anything. A bunch of idiots. A cultivator who was about to enter the abyss saw this scene and sneered. The most terrifying moment of the Million Treasure Crimson Tide is not after the Crimson Tide is formed, but during the process. After the Crimson Tide is formed, there are countless treasures in the Crimson Tide. These treasures only have one purpose, and that is to rush forward to the treasure bowl and the money tree. They won't release any attack, and the power of the treasures will be limited. Now, if you dare to go in before the Crimson Tide is formed, you're simply courting death. The treasures are not bound, and the power that they naturally burst out is enough to kill any ancient giant. A bunch of little cultivators wanting to get a share of the treasure? You're really overestimating yourselves. After saying this, he directly entered the abyss. Countless cultivators were dumbfounded when they heard this. No wonder no one rushed up. It turned out that this time was more terrifying than when the Crimson Tide was formed. Think about it. Those treasures were all-powerful divine weapons. If they were allowed to release their power on their own, the combined power would be incomparably terrifying. Who would dare to rush into the endless attack? That would be courting death. Committing suicide was much easier than that. On the spot, a large number of cultivators wanted to retreat. Seeing such a bloody and terrifying scene, it would be a lie to say that they were not frightened. Boom! Boom! In all directions, on thousands of stars, countless treasures continuously gathered. In the void, countless treasures gathered together to form a treasure light, almost like a sun, illuminating the entire void. In a treasure light, there was a dazzling blood color. Countless treasures were constantly surging. It seemed that they were continuing to release their power for the eruption of the Crimson Tide. It could be foreseen that when all the treasures were absorbed, these ocean-like treasures would all surge into the abyss and gather with the treasures from all the heavens and realms, forming a true Crimson Treasure Tide that could destroy everything and nothing could stop it. The Red Tide has already begun. The abyss will be a real battlefield. We can take advantage of this opportunity to see how much strength the human tribe has gained and how many divine skills they have. I'm afraid the experts of the 100 clans who once dominated the purple gold continent will be able to see it. That's right, Limu said. That's right. Know-it-all watched the Crimson Tide crush millions of cultivators and was not moved at all. He just laughed and said, in the ancient times, among the 100 clans that lived together with the demon race, some of them were even feared by the demon race. The top 10 clans were the Titan race, the Orc race where the golden behemoths were the Elf race, the Three-Eyed God race, and so on. These clans all had a unique talent for cultivation. They were blessed by the heavens. Once they return, the purple gold continent will once again usher in the most glorious era. There was a hint of expectation in his words. Humph! The demon lord frowned slightly and said, so what if the 100 clans return? The ones who should be troubled are still the humans. In the ancient war, the twilight of the gods, the demon race was the main force, and the 100 clans gathered all their elite experts to resist the countless demon gods. Back then, the humans rebelled and hunted down the demon race everywhere. As the protagonist of the heavens and the earth, they could no longer tolerate the 100 clans. The 100 clans lost countless elites and had no choice but to temporarily hide and move out of the origin continent. Now, after so many years, their strength should have mostly recovered. Once they return, let's see how the humans will face them. A look of disdain appeared on his face, and he did not look at those cultivators. Come, let's also enter the abyss. The real curtain is still in the abyss. I want to see what the eternal kingdom is like with my own eyes. Know-it-all screamed and walked directly to the entrance of the abyss. The demon lord also followed. In the abyss, there was a different scene at the moment. The commotion caused by the arrival of the Crimson Tide was too great. In the entire abyss, there was a strange, dull heartbeat beating sound, as if a terrifying monster was awakening. Clang, clang, clang. In most areas of the abyss, broken weapons were rapidly emerging from the ground. There were various kinds of weapons, and each of them exuded a terrible aura of resentment and ferocity. A destructive aura reverberated in the air. The abyss, which was originally full of bones, suddenly turned into a huge mound of weapons. There were almost innumerable broken weapons and magic treasures in the mound. They were so densely packed that it made one's scalp tingle. Soldier soul. Are all the soldier souls in the Godfall abyss about to awaken? There's an aura of life in these weapons. Tion saw these changes, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 534. Uncle, what is a soldier soul? At this moment, a slightly immature voice sounded out. Looking over, one could see the little Lolita, Little You, by Silverhair's side. Her small face was filled with curiosity. Xiao Yu, the only family member of King Nightmare, didn't stay outside. Instead, she followed Silverhair. A soldier soul is a different kind of life. It exists for the sole purpose of killing. When Silverhair heard this, he looked at her lovingly and said calmly, I once read an incomplete ancient book, and there was a special record about the soldier's soul. The soldier's soul is formed when countless abandoned, broken weapons and Dharma treasures gather together. The weapons and Dharma treasures naturally carry the kind of unwillingness, resentment, and even a murderous aura that they innately carry when they are born gathered together. This kind of unwillingness, resentment, and grief will completely activate the murderous aura contained in the divine weapon. In the end, a soldier soul that exists only for killing is born. It has a different kind of life. Unfortunately, the soldier soul only has endless killing intent. Once it awakens, it will kill all living things in front of it. This kind of aimless killing makes it easy for ghosts and gods to escape. Soldier souls are divided into 4 levels: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. The highest level is heaven, and it can rival the strongest. Hiss! Hearing Silverhair's explanation, the Monster Kings couldn't help but gasp in shock. Godfall Abyss was indeed terrifying and extraordinary. It was indeed worthy of being one of the 9 forbidden lands. It was no wonder that the strongest didn't dare to casually enter such a forbidden land. King Blood Dragon and the others couldn't help but reveal a look of understanding. However, soldier souls usually sleep on their own. Without external disturbances, they won't be awakened. Even if they are awakened, it will only be a part of them. Silverhair glanced at the broken weapons scattered all over the place. His eyes flickered with a hint of seriousness as he said, The Godfall Abyss has almost turned into a tomb of weapons. I'm afraid most of the weapon souls are about to awaken. Soldier souls awakening? Was it 100? 1,000? 10,000? 100,000? A million? Thinking of Silverhair's description, all the Monster Kings felt a strong sense of danger. The soldier spirits had no concept of life and death, no pain, and only knew how to kill. If they woke up, anyone who faced them would face a terrible disaster. Indra swept his gaze over the crowd of demons. Within the crowd of demons, the demon soldiers brought by the demon kings all had expressions of fear on their faces, as though they were panicking in their hearts. However, after a moment of fear, the faces of the 4 armies under him regained their cold and iron-blooded expressions. The weapons in their hands were tightly gripped in their hands. Their morale was unstoppable. Xiao Chan said calmly, There is no need to worry. With the Mirage Pavilion's illusion, as long as we do not move or leave its range, no matter how strong the soldier soul is, it will not be able to see through us unless it is a heaven-ranked soldier soul. We could just wait and see. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Clang, clang, clang. Right after he said that, the countless weapons that had emerged from the ground began to vibrate simultaneously. As time passed, the vibrations became more and more intense. In the blink of an eye, the vibrations filled the entire abyss. As the weapons vibrated, strands of blood-red threads shot out from the weapons. Every strand of these blood threads contained a strong sense of unwillingness, hatred, and even killing intent. As long as one's spiritual consciousness came into contact with them, one's mind would be filled with bloody and horrifying scenes of killing. It was so sharp that it could blast one's spiritual consciousness into smithereens. If even a tiny strand of such blood entered the body, it would probably cause extremely terrifying hidden dangers to an expert. It was not impossible for it to directly turn the expert into a madman or a puppet that only knew how to kill. However, the tens of thousands of strands of blood continued to shoot out from the weapons and rapidly converge in the air above the tomb of soldiers. In the blink of an eye, they formed clouds of blood. As the clouds transformed, the souls of the soldiers sprung up like bamboo shoots after a rain. The soldier souls were divided into 4 ranks. Naturally, they had different forms. The bodies formed by the yellow rank soldier souls were all strange weapons. However, these weapons had eyes, noses, and even mouths. One could imagine that the bodies of the weapons, which were as thin as cicadas' wings, had faces like humans. What kind of strange thing was that? Its combat strength was comparable to that of the ancient demon kings. The profound rank soldier soul had already formed a body similar to that of a human. On this body, from top to bottom, there was nothing that could not become a sharp weapon of slaughter. They moved faster, and their strength became more terrifying. Their strength was comparable to that of a demon saint. The bodies formed by the earth-rank soldier souls still looked like humans. However, in the hands of these earth-rank soldier souls, there was an additional divine weapon compared to the dark-rank soldier souls. Although there was only a difference of 1 divine weapon, the difference was huge. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Its combat strength was comparable to that of a heavenly demon, which was also the venerable of the ancient giants. Only a few people had seen the heaven-rank soldier souls. However, those who had seen them did not manage to escape unscathed. It was said that their bodies were not that of humans. Instead, they transformed into various terrifying beasts, such as dragons and tigers. This type of soldier soul had already developed its own consciousness. They were not completely controlled by their instincts to kill. However, they were even more terrifying. The power was so terrifying that even the most powerful experts would have to avoid it. Soldier souls. Densely packed soldier souls. The weapon type has already transformed into a human body, and the soldier souls that are holding the divine weapons in their hands. The purple mark between D. Shirtian's brows flashed with a purple light. It imprinted the soldier souls outside in his mind. The soldier souls were so huge that it was impossible to count them clearly. However, with just one glance, he noticed that there was no heaven-rank soldier soul among these soldier souls. There were only earth rank, black rank, and yellow rank soldier souls. The higher the rank, the fewer there were. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying bloody light appeared in the eyes of these thousands of soldier souls at the same time. A murderous intent that could shatter the heavens and earth surged out from them. They roared and surged in the same direction like a tide. Something's wrong. D. Shirtian and the other monster kings had the same thought in their minds. Heaven's punishment divine, I break through the whims. D. Shirtian shouted in his mind. He focused all his attention on the heaven's punishment divine eye. Suddenly, the purple mark between his brows flashed with purple light. Although he did not open the divine eye, the power to break through the whims was unleashed. The divine eye broke through the void and swept across the land. It shrouded the entire fallen god abyss under the gaze of the divine eye. Under the gaze of the divine eye. Suddenly, a scene appeared in front of them. Suddenly, a huge door appeared in the void in the originally empty abyss. The moment the door opened, countless figures swarmed out like dumplings into a pot, rushing into the abyss. These people who had rushed in all gave off a strange aura of experts from head to toe. Just by standing there, they naturally made the surrounding air a little oppressive. These are experts of the human clan. Scarlet Tide Island? They must be experts from Scarlet Tide Island. It seems that they have also begun to enter the abyss after the Scarlet Tide. D. Shirkin's mind spun quickly. He knew that the human clan had been plotting for many years and would definitely not give up. Sure enough, they had taken action at this moment. It seemed that the human clan was determined to get the Scarlet Tide. But he did not know that at this moment. Among the experts who came in, there was no one from the 10 immortal sects. It should be known that the experts from the 10 major immortal sects were the first to enter the abyss. However, they did not appear in the abyss. In other words, they did not reveal any aura in the abyss. They were so well hidden that there was not even a trace of them. This method was not ordinary. Fallen God Abyss? One of the 9 forbidden lands. I didn't expect that I would have the opportunity to enter the abyss in my lifetime. A middle-aged man in green looked around and sighed slightly. Suddenly, his eyes swept across the ground, and when he saw the densely packed, broken weapons that were constantly emerging from the ground, his expression changed abruptly. He said in surprise, "These weapons? Oh no, it's the weapon soul. The weapon soul is about to awaken. Everyone, be careful." Supreme Wu Ju, according to the records in the abyss, hasn't it always been like this? A cultivator beside him asked in surprise. The green-robed cultivator was an immortal monarch expert, and he had his own nickname, Wu Ju. This nickname came from the fact that he had 5 kinds of powerful techniques. Supreme Wu Ju held a snow-white folding fan in his hand. The folding fan was dotted with plum blossoms, and it seemed to have a unique charm. He said, "No, the abyss is not like this at all. Normally, weapons would never emerge from here. The appearance of a weapon is the precursor of the appearance of a weapon soul. It seems that most of the weapon souls in the abyss are beginning to awaken. Quick, quick, everyone destroy these weapons." Supreme Wu Ju raised his voice and roared. At the same time, as if to set off the truth of what he said, a terrible murderous aura suddenly rose in the abyss, and the air became incomparably oppressive in an instant. Plum Blossom Fan, 1,000 miles of ice. Supreme Wu Ju finished speaking, and without hesitation, he gently fanned the plum blossom fan in front of him. Suddenly, countless pink plum blossoms flew out from the fan, and the snowy plum blossoms filled the air in 1,000 miles in the blink of an eye. When they fell, the temperature in the air dropped dramatically at a speed visible to the naked eye. The plum blossoms fell, and on the ground, countless ice crystals spread wildly. In the blink of an eye, the area within 1,000 miles was completely frozen. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 535. Crack. 1,000 miles of ice seal. The bitter cold air froze the countless weapons on the ground. In an instant, the cold air frantically eroded those broken weapons. Frightening cracks appeared on those weapons as they were eroded by the cold air that filled the sky. The cracks quickly spread to the entire weapon at a frightening speed. Immortal monarchs were comparable to great demons in the demon clan who had reached the 9th transformation realm. With just one blow, they could change the color of heaven and earth and freeze thousands of miles of land. These weapons, which looked broken but were actually very tough, were covered with countless terrible cracks. It was unknown how many weapons had been frozen by this ice seal. Good. Immortal Wu Ju is indeed an expert among the immortal monarchs. A gentle wave of the plum blossom fan could produce such a powerful force. It seems that these soldier souls are not difficult to deal with. As long as we destroy the weapons they are in before they appear, they will not be able to do anything. Let's go, everyone. Let's get rid of these annoying soldier souls first. It's too easy for us to destroy these weapons. The strong cultivators looked at the weapons on the ground and saw that they were easily frozen. They didn't see any danger or difficulty at all. Immediately, they calmed down and started discussing among themselves. There were even smiles on their faces. It was as if they had found a way to deal with the soldier's soul. Bah, a bunch of ignorant fools. They don't even know what a soldier soul is, and yet they dare to barge in. I don't know if they're stupid or ignorant. Destroying weapons? I can't believe they came up with this idea. Nether saw this with the help of the divine eye. In the Nether prison, he almost burst out laughing. He shouted disdainfully, "Destroying weapons is destroying the soldier souls? TSK, TSK. I don't know if I should laugh for them or feel sad for them." "Oh," D. Shirtian asked in surprise. "What do you mean?" "TSK, TSK. If the soldier souls could be destroyed so easily, how could this place become one of the 9 forbidden lands? Those guys are not destroying the soldier souls at all. Instead, they are helping them to upgrade." Poor child. Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that in order for a yellow rank soldier soul to evolve into a profound rank soldier soul, the first step would be to destroy the weapon that was nurtured within the yellow rank soldier soul. Then, the weapon would be completely transformed into the purest slaughter origin energy, gathering them together, and finally transforming into a human form. Nether spoke as if she was listening to the funniest joke in the world. He watched the scene with great interest. The first step of the soldier soul was to be nurtured by the killing intent and hatred emitted by the weapon. However, in order to advance to the next level, the weapon that nurtured them had to be refined into the purest slaughter origin energy. This was the most difficult step to break the soldier soul. Now, Supreme Wu Ju and the others were not destroying it, but helping the soldier soul to advance. Originally, the soldier soul that would appear would only be a yellow rank soldier soul. However, with their actions, it would be upgraded to a profound rank soldier soul. They were basically creating enemies for themselves. How could Nether, who knew the mystery behind this, not burst out laughing? They are courting death. When Dion heard this, he sneered in his heart. The more human experts died, the happier he would be. After all, the human race and the demon race had long been sworn enemies. Go and warn them? Don't even think about it. Crack. In the ice seal, violent cracking sounds could be heard continuously. Countless cracks spread out densely. In the blink of an eye, the broken weapons shattered one after another. However, at the moment when they shattered, countless blood-red threads gushed out and wrapped around the fragments. The fragments began to melt, turning into countless blood-red threads. These blood-red threads gathered together. They completely ignored the ice seal and broke out of it. In the blink of an eye, a blood-red egg was formed in the blood-red light all over the sky. The blood-red egg made a heartbeat sound, but it did not last long before it burst open. Bronze warriors that looked like they were made of bronze broke out of the egg one after another. In the eyes of the bronze warriors, there was a strong blood-red light. In the blood-red light, there was endless killing intent. Soldier soul, a profound rank soldier soul. Bronze rank, their bodies shone with a bronze luster, as if they were really made of bronze. There was no illusory feeling on their bodies, as if they were real. Kill, kill, kill. Once the soldier soul was awakened, the murderous intent in its eyes flashed. It spat out the word kill, and every word shook the void. One of the soldier souls waved its right hand at the crowd of cultivators in front of it without hesitation. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, a blood-red saber light shot out from its hand. It was thousands of feet long, and the saber was filled with boundless killing intent. It pierced through heaven and earth and slashed at the group of cultivators. The saber light was so terrifying that the void under the saber was cut open. Swoosh! The saber light came at the speed of lightning. It was unbelievably fast, and it surprised everyone. On the spot, hundreds of cultivators who could not dodge in time were cut in half from top to bottom. Their organs splattered out, and their blood dyed the sky red. The thick smell of blood permeated the air. A profound rank soldier soul was comparable to a demonic sage. These soldier souls had just been promoted, so they might not be as strong as a demonic sage, but they were still comparable to a demonic sage in the 9th refinement stage. When the saber fell, it was almost unstoppable. The blood-red light burst out in front of them. Countless cultivators who rushed in from outside felt a chill in their hearts. This was the soldier soul. The soldier soul was so terrifying. With a wave of its hand, it took the lives of hundreds of cultivators. One had to know that among those who died, Even the weakest cultivator was in the tribulation transcendent stage. Many of them had even released their domains, but they were cut open by the saber. They did not even have a chance to block it. It was terrifying. Kill, kill, kill. There was no fear in the soldier soul's eyes, only killing intent. Seeing more and more cultivators rushing in, they all rushed toward the cultivator. They were as fast as lightning. As he raised his hand, countless saber lights and sword lights pierced through the sky. They were extremely sharp. Break for this perfected cultivator. Perfected cultivator Wuju's face was also filled with fear. The plum blossom fan in his hand fiercely fanned at a soldier soul that was rushing toward him. Thousands of plum blossoms danced, and the plum blossoms turned into the sharpest weapon. In an instant, a bronze soldier soul was wrapped in it, and it spun violently like a tornado. In the blink of an eye, the soldier soul was twisted into countless pieces. Bang! However, the soldier's soul instantly collapsed, and its entire body once again transformed into countless blood-colored motes of light that fled in all directions. After a certain distance, the motes of light once again converged back together. In the blink of an eye, the soldier's soul had once again taken on the form of a soldier's soul. Surprisingly, it was not completely dead. There were no changes at all. It cannot be killed. The soldier's soul was condensed from the killing intent. It could be gathered and dispersed at will. As long as it was not completely destroyed, once a strand of it escaped, it could be reborn again. It was really difficult to produce. The soldier's soul only had killing intent. It whistled and rushed into the crowd of cultivators. On the spot, it almost turned into a killing machine. There was almost no place on its body that could not kill. Sharp sword chi and sword chi burst out everywhere, like a hedgehog with thorns all over its body. When it attacked, it used killing techniques. When it scratched its body, it would tear it into pieces. It was barbaric and bloody. It was extremely tragic. It was really the most terrifying killing machine in the world. Boundless blood-red lights flashed one after another. Countless cries of agony turned the abyss into a terrifying purgatory. Kill! 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 Countless roars could be heard in the void. In the distance, densely packed soldier souls were surging toward them violently like a tide. That intense, murderous aura dyed the entire sky blood-red in an instant. The experts of the human race seemed to be hiding and watching coldly from the side, observing the true strength of the soldier souls. He didn't have any intention of helping them. Instead, he just looked on coldly from the sidelines. It was as if he didn't have the slightest bit of pity. The soldier soul is indeed the most terrifying killing clan in the world. Every move and every style was purely for the sake of killing. Every time he made a move, it was a fatal move. It has no sense of self. That's the scary part. The know-it-all and the demon king hid in another independent world between the God's Fall abyss and watched the scene in the abyss as if they had merged with the space-time crack. Humph! The human race has become so cold and heartless. I really don't know where they threw away the so-called morals, etiquette, shame, and traditional virtues that they advocated in the past. Each generation is worse than the last. He was actually able to watch his fellow clansmen being slaughtered without doing anything about it. The blood in their hearts has already turned cold. The Demon King said coldly with a hint of mockery, "In the great calamity, the human race will face the calamity of extinction. Such a human race will be spurned by the heavenly Tao." The know-it-all shook his head and sighed. That's right. What is the protagonist of the world? It's not the natural Taoist constitution. It's the strength. It's the foundation. I wonder how much foundation the human race has now. The Demon King shook his head indifferently. Rumble. Just as the soldier's soul was massacring the cultivators, the space in the abyss began to shake violently with a series of rumbles. The abyss started to shake violently. It seemed like the abyss was about to collapse. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Under the violent shaking, huge cracks appeared out of nowhere in the void. They turned into terrifying vortexes. Inside the vortex, an incomparably huge torrent charged out with an indomitable, destructive aura, roaring and rushing into the abyss. These vortexes, one, two, tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of them, appeared densely in the void. From every vortex, a torrent roared and rushed out. Chapter 536. These torrents were like floodwaters that broke the dike, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they roared and rushed into the abyss. In the void, there were bursts of roars that almost covered the entire abyss. The vast roars were almost exactly the same as when a tsunami appeared in the secular world. However, these floods were not real floods, but a treasure tide formed by the gathering of countless treasures. However, the ferocious and terrifying part was that it was thousands of times more powerful than a flood. Countless treasures and divine weapons were constantly bobbing and rolling in the surging waves. Anything that stood in their way, whether it was a living being or an object, would be mercilessly crushed into powder. Red tide. This is the million treasures red tide. It has finally begun to form. When the red tide rises, everything will be annihilated. Wherever the red tide goes, nothing can stop it. Everything will be annihilated. This is indeed the legendary million treasures red tide. It has finally arrived. Every red tide is formed by countless treasures. The red tide is protected by the miraculous power of the treasure bowl and the money tree. In the crushing of the red tide, the treasures will not be damaged. However, their power will also be limited and they will not be able to fully erupt. Although it is terrifying, there's a chance to deal with it. The million treasures in the red tide are all protected by the treasure bowl and the money tree. Once they are extracted from the red tide, there will be no resistance. It can be easily seized and turned into one's own treasure. If you want to seize it, this is the best opportunity. Otherwise, when the red tide and the weapon spirit merge together, it will really evolve to the most powerful level. If you want to seize it, you will have to pay a terrible price. When thousands of red tides converge, it will really evolve into the million treasures red tide. Its power will be destructive. It's time to strike. Cries of surprise rang out one after another when they saw countless cracks suddenly appear in the space above the chasm and rapidly form countless huge vortexes. There was fear in the voices, but there was also a strong desire and greed. A strong desire to possess constantly grew in their hearts. What was strange was that they could only hear the voices in the void, but they could not see anyone. Speaking of which, this was a unique divine ability. Only when the conditions were met would one be able to use it. The reason for that was because those experts were not hiding in the void at all. Instead, they were hiding in another world that was connected to the void, but not in the void. It could be said to be an extra-dimensional space. Hiding in the spatial fault. What a bunch of cold-blooded people. In between Sakra's brows, the divine, I was flickering with light. Although it wasn't completely opened, it was still able to display a part of the power of the divine eye. It could see through falsehood, see through yin and yang, and see beyond the 9 heavens and below the 9 underworlds. He could hear the faint fluctuations in the air. With a thought, he scanned the area with his divine eyes. Immediately, he saw that there were layers of folded space in the air. There were a large number of experts hidden in them. These experts seemed to be in another world, but they knew everything that happened in the abyss like the back of their hands. They could see everything clearly. However, to be able to harden his heart and be so cold-blooded as to watch a large group of his own race being slaughtered by the soldier soul without a shred of humanity, this coldness, indifference, and forgetfulness of humanity had reached a level that made one's hair stand on end. Indeed, the higher one stood, the more selfish one would be. It was one thing for them to see the common people as ants, but they could even see their own race as ants. This made Tion feel sad for the human race. However, their ability to hide in the spatial fault as if they were in another world and see what was happening in this space through the spatial barrier, I have to say that they are quite impressive. He also had a trace of doubt in his heart. Logically speaking, this kind of ability should be quite rare and secretive. However, it was like a cabbage that was casually thrown around, and anyone could have it. Furthermore, it would appear that the divine abilities they had used were exactly the same. This made him very suspicious. There's no need to doubt. At this time, Ming completely played the role of a guide. He laughed strangely and said, "This kind of ability is not a rare technique. Once you reach a certain level, even you can have it. It's not surprising at all. However, it's still quite rare. It's not something that ordinary experts can have. However, once you have it, you must be a real top expert in the world." "What do you mean?" Di Shirtian raised his eyebrows and quickly asked in his mind. TSK, Lunatic D, did you find it strange that they were hiding in two folded worlds? Did you find it magical? Ming shook his head and said, "In fact, it's not, because it's just a method of using the inner world. Speaking of miraculous, what's truly miraculous is only the inner world." Inner world? Inner world? How astute was the Sakra? Once he heard this, he recalled the scene he had seen in his mind. Immediately, he guessed the general result in his heart and said in surprise, "You mean they didn't let the space fold and hide in the space fault, but hid in their own inner world? The inner world itself is an independent world that belongs to them. In this way, their world and the space barrier of the abyss are folded, allowing them to achieve a kind of miraculous sign of being in the abyss but not existing here." Wisps of wisdom flashed in his eyes. Immediately, he came to a conclusion in his heart. After hearing this, Dark also felt a wave of admiration in his heart. He thought to himself, "This lunatic emperor is really wise." Originally, because of his strength, he suppressed his wisdom and didn't really reveal it. Now that he has the ability to control his own destiny, he finally revealed it. Wise demon? No, he is a demon. He is indeed a demon. He cultivates the Emperor's way. If he can really find my body's book of Ming in the abyss this time, then what should I do? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, but he still said, "That's right. If one can possess an inner world, the benefits are almost endless. This is just one of its most basic uses. For example, when the inner world is first opened, the power of the inner world can allow the owner of the inner world to have a chance to undergo a marrow cleansing. The cultivation realm in the body can be raised by one level in an instant. Countless experts are eager to have it." Ming once again revealed the benefits of having the inner world to Di Shirtian. He wanted to stimulate him to find the source seed of the world as soon as possible. Only he knew that the sooner he had the inner world, the greater the benefits it would bring to him. Inner world? Di Shirtian thought to himself. He smiled faintly and said, "Maybe it's not impossible to have the inner world. Maybe there will be the source seed of the world in this crimson tide. Together with all the source seeds of life in my body, I'm afraid the inner world will be in front of us. The million treasure crimson tide has finally begun. Let's hold back for now and see what other experts will do." Indra swept his gaze over the various demon kings. He stretched out his finger and tapped on the divine eye in the center of his brows. Instantly, a beam of violet light shot out from the violet mark. This violet light didn't dissipate, and instead, it transformed into a screen of light in the air. It formed a huge mirror. All kinds of scenes appeared in the mirror. At a glance, what appeared in the mirror was what Di Shirtian saw with the Heaven's Punishment divine eye. He used a unique divine ability to show what he saw, so that the Monster Kings and millions of Monster Clan elites could clearly see every scene in the Crimson Tide. Looking at the mirror, thousands of giant torrents surged forward. Following this, a terrifying vortex was torn open in the sky. Inside the vortex, a treasure tide that was larger than any of the torrents surged forward at an incredible speed. Boom! Boom! The torrents shook the void like rolling thunder. When the countless torrents saw the largest torrent appear, it was as if they had found their mother, and they all gathered towards it without any hesitation. The momentum roared as if the tide of the era was unstoppable. The rivers flowed into the sea, containing the atmosphere of heaven and earth. In an instant, countless torrents gathered in the void. Every time a torrent merged, the crimson tide became bigger and bigger. In the blink of an eye, the crimson tide was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye. The most terrifying thing was that in just a few breaths, the crimson tide had expanded to an unimaginable level. It covered the void as if it was the end of the world. Thousands of treasure lights shone in the void, shining brightly. The treasure lights were dazzling to the eyes. Splash! In the air, one could hear the sound of tides and waves spreading in all directions. It was as if an ocean had appeared in front of them. Even the sound of waves could be heard clearly. Layers of treasure lights could be seen. Countless treasure lights were stacked on top of each other, roaring and rolling up a terrifying wave that was tens of thousands of feet tall. The huge wave rose out of nowhere. The bottom of the wave touched the ground, and the top of the wave reached the sky. It was like an incomparably huge city wall. Moreover, it was a city wall made of countless treasure lights. The city wall was alive. It was moving forward in parallel, whistling and crushing everything in its path. Once it moved forward, one could imagine how the earth-shattering crimson tide that contained the power of heaven and earth would crush everything in its path. No matter what it would be crushed into powder on the spot like a giant grindstone. Countless treasure lights were wriggling in the crimson tide. Anything that was in front of it would be crushed by the countless treasure lights. After waiting for so long, the million treasure crimson tide has finally formed. Now, let's see what I'm capable of. There is a strange fluctuation in the void. Under the distortion of space, a middle-aged man with a purple gold crown and a dragon robe appeared. His face was full of arrogance. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 537. The fact that this man possessed an inner world and addressed himself as the emperor showed that he wasn't an ordinary person. His cultivation base was at least at the immortal emperor realm. Judging from his demeanor and his arrogance, it was obvious that he had great confidence in his own strength. He was confident that he could gain benefits from the Crimson Tide. It's the emperor of the sky demon of the heaven realm. He's also here. It seems that he can't help but attack the Crimson Tide. Crimson Tide, what a terrifying Crimson Tide. Just its aura alone is enough to suppress me to the point that I don't even have the strength to move. This time I'm doomed. I'll definitely be crushed into powder by this Crimson Tide. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have rushed into the abyss for the treasure. Demon Emperor, save us. Please save us. We don't want to stay in the abyss anymore. We want to get out. Help! Under the Crimson Tide, countless cultivators who had rushed into the abyss felt an invisible pressure pressing down on them. This pressure was so terrifying that it was as if the heavenly Tao had appeared above their heads. Their bodies were directly pressed down from the sky to the ground, as if thousands of terrible mountains were pressing down on them. They didn't even have the strength to move. Even the immortal monarchs turned pale. Their bodies were constantly trembling in front of the Crimson Tide, and their eyes were filled with fear. In the past, they had only heard of the horror of the Crimson Tide, but had never seen it with their own eyes. As a result, countless cultivators had a wishful thinking in their hearts. They held that perhaps the Crimson Tide was not as terrible as they had imagined. Perhaps they would be the luckiest person. They had the blessing of the heavens. But now, the 30,000-meter-tall Crimson Tide had shattered their fantasies and hopes like a mirror. In their minds, there was no longer any hope of getting the treasure by chance. There was only a strong sense of fear and the desire to escape, hoping that there would be a chance to leave the abyss. Leave this terrible place. Otherwise, when the Crimson Tide surged over, they would be the first to bear the brunt. It was almost impossible to resist. They would be completely swept into the Crimson Tide. Once they entered the Crimson Tide, even the peerless experts would not dare to hope to come out again. The disaster was right in front of them. However, their cries for help didn't move the Emperor of the No-Sky Demon at all. He didn't even blink. He just stared at the endless amount of treasures in the red tide. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How could he have the time to pay attention to those ants? Watch I come for the treasure. Emperor No Sky Demon proudly spat out these words. At the same time, boundless demon chi gushed out from his body and instantly gathered above his head, forming an incomparably huge pitch-black demon hand. Once the devil hand was formed, it exuded a terrifying aura that covered the heavens and the earth. It was so powerful that it could shatter space with a flip of the hand. Countless devils were crazily screaming within the devil hand. His cries shook the hearts and souls of those who heard them. Sky-covering demon's hand. Lawless. To obtain treasures. This incomparably huge devil hand was hidden in the terrifying devil cloud that was tens of thousands of feet in size. The devil hand rolled over, as if it could reach down from any corner of the devil cloud at any time and tear the sky apart. The sky-covering demon's hand silently reached out from the devil cloud. The devil hand suddenly grabbed at the crimson tide. Boom, boom. Under the devil hand, the void was easily shattered into pieces like tofu. Even an immortal lord would be smashed to smithereens by this demonic hand. Bang! However, as soon as the demonic hand touched the crimson tide, a terrifying divine light burst out from the crimson tide. Countless treasures crashed into the demonic hand like a tidal wave, pulling the demonic hand into the crimson tide and crushing it into dust. In front of the crimson tide, the terrifying devil hand was like a piece of tofu and directly shattered. Hiss! Countless cultivators could not help but suck in a breath of cold air at the same time. Those who were able to come here were all experts. Naturally, their vision was top-notch. Although their strength might be a little far from that of the Emperor of the Sky-covering demon, they could feel that the devil hand contained terrifying demonic power. It was a rather terrifying, unique technique of the Devil Dao. Looking at the devil hand's momentum, it was enough to prove that it had been cultivated to an extremely high level. It could be said to be the most powerful attack of a first-level celestial lord. But in front of the crimson tide, it did not even have the slightest reaction, let alone snatching the treasures in the crimson tide. The devil hand was as laughable as a child's toy. Seeing this scene, the Emperor of the Sky-covering demon's originally proud face suddenly lost its luster. He shouted angrily, "Black Lotus! Devour the treasures for me!" With an angry shout, a black light flashed under his feet. A huge black lotus mysteriously emerged and supported his body on the black lotus. This black lotus was of the 8th grade. As soon as it appeared, it immediately caused the entire surrounding space to completely distort. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, it seemed to be suppressed by the black lotus. In this area, the black lotus was the sky. The Emperor of the Sky-covering demon was the sky. Faintly, an obscure aura was emitted from the 8th grade black lotus. Countless devil chi continuously emitted from the black lotus and spread out, causing the surrounding sky to be covered by the devil chi. It caused a radius of 1,000 miles to suddenly turn into a devil domain. Countless devils let out strange devil cries. The black lotus soared into the sky above the crimson tide. From the red tide, a terrible pulling force fell on the black lotus, wanting to directly pull the black lotus into the red tide. In the sky above the red tide, no one could fly. However, this pulling force didn't pull the black lotus down. Instead, a crack suddenly appeared beneath the black lotus. It was as if there was a mysterious space within the black lotus. When this space opened, it formed a terrifying black vortex. The vortex spun, emitting a strong devil chi, and the surrounding space was distorted. It fell on the red tide. Boom! Boom! In the red tide, some treasures seemed to be unable to resist the black lotus's devouring force. They trembled in the red tide and were about to be sucked into the black lotus. Standing on the black lotus, the devil emperor saw this and was overjoyed. He shouted arrogantly, "Ha! Devour! Black lotus, help me devour the treasures." The powerful Dharma power in his body surged into the black lotus, causing the black lotus to emit a stronger devouring force. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Three treasures, shrouded in treasure light, could not resist the power of the Black Lotus and were sucked into the Black Lotus. Humph! Wu Tian, your hand is fast enough. However, I'm not worse than you. Look at Ai's divine ability. At this time, in the void, countless experts who saw that the Wu Tian sky demon had actually obtained the treasures in the red tide were jealous. They did not want to continue to hide and walked out of their inner worlds. A big fat man, with a natural smile, walked out of the void. He patted his belly and opened his mouth with a smile, inhaling fiercely toward the red tide. Whoosh! Suddenly, in front of him, a strong wind blew, and the sky turned dark as if it was the end of the world. A few more treasures rushed out of the crimson tide and entered his mouth. Divine ability, big stomach capacity. Amipa, a monk with a bald head, chanted the name of Buddha. He stretched out his hand and grabbed toward the red tide in the void. In his hand, it was as if there was another world. With a grab, hundreds of treasures fell into his hand. That hand exuded a profound aura, and there were faint sounds of chanting and praying constantly coming out of his hand. It was as if there was a paradise in his hand. Buddhist sex divine ability, Buddhist kingdom in a palm. Boom, boom. Another young man with a jade-like face, snow-white clothes, and a unique temperament slowly walked down from the sky. As he stepped in the air, ripples naturally appeared under his feet. Every time he took a step, a word would come out from his mouth. His voice was extremely strange and contained a mysterious charm. It was as if he could communicate with the heavens. He was shrouded in mysterious colors. I say, at the beginning of the chaos, the clear is the heaven, the turbid is the earth. The sun and the moon are the universe. Morality comes first, and those who are righteous will receive help. Those who are unjust will receive little help. Treasures have spirits, and those who are virtuous will obtain them. Those who are fated with me shall return to me. Every word he spat out did not disappear. Instead, it reverberated in the void and disappeared into the mysterious river of destiny. In the heavenly Tao, a mysterious power suddenly descended from the void and swept across the red tide. Whoosh! Immediately, several hundred rays of light shot out of the scarlet tide and swiftly arrived in front of the mysterious young man. Then, the young man waved his hand slightly, and those treasures disappeared without a trace. Then, he turned around and left the abyss in a bizarre manner. Unparalleled divine ability, golden mouth, and jade words. Freeze! All of a sudden, an old voice rang out in the void. An elder was standing in the air. He stretched out his right hand and pointed a finger at the red tide. A beam of invisible divine light shot out from his finger and landed on the red tide, causing a small area of the red tide to abruptly stop. It was as if it had been completely frozen in an instant. Then, the old man waved his hand and took away hundreds of treasures from the frozen area. Then, he turned around and left. Peerless divine ability, soul fixation technique. Dong, dong. At this time, a middle-aged man in the emperor's robes suddenly took 7 steps forward. His eyes were full of majesty. Suddenly, he took a different position with each step. 7 footprints appeared in the void. Each of the footprints was like a star in the starry sky. They flashed with dazzling divine light. Roar! The 7 footprints turned into 7 stars. The stars rotated and condensed into a huge golden divine dragon that was thousands of feet long. With a roar, the dragon swayed its body and rushed into the red tide. This collision caused continuous rumbling sounds. Hundreds of treasures were knocked out of the red tide and flew toward the emperor in the void. The golden dragon was also crushed into powder by the red tide. Emperor Path divine ability, 7 stars trampling. Brothers, if you have tickets, please count them. If you have something to say, feel free to say it in the book review section. I know how to read it. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 538. Many experts who had been hiding in the void came out of their respective inner worlds at this moment, as if they were going to a market. They showed themselves and did not hesitate to use various divine abilities on the Crimson Tide. Taoist divine arts, Buddhist divine arts, monarch divine arts, and demon divine arts appeared like bamboo shoots after a rain. Wisps of godly light soared into the sky. Vast auras ran through the past and present. Every divine ability seemed to have the supreme power to shatter heaven and earth. They landed on the Crimson Tide and forcibly broke through the confinement of the primordial spirit treasures. They seized several, dozens, and even hundreds of treasures from the Crimson Tide and left. No one was willing to stay in the same place after obtaining the treasures. They disappeared one after another. It was unknown whether they were satisfied with this, or were afraid that they would be attacked by others if they stole the treasures, or they did not really leave the abyss and just went into hiding again. They just did not want to reveal themselves. In the blink of an eye, thousands of experts made their moves. Every one of them was an immortal emperor with the lowest cultivation base. Bang! Suddenly, at this moment, an incomparably loud roar resounded in the void. This sound was as if the void had suddenly suffered some kind of violent impact. Countless terrifying cracks appeared in the void like a mirror. These cracks quickly spread in all directions in an instant. Boom! With a bang, the void shattered and collapsed. At the place where the collapse occurred, one could see a mountain-like fist emitting a bronze light appear before one's eyes. The fist swung out again, causing the crack to grow even larger. The void trembled as if millions of trucks were crashing into it. Within the collapsing void, an incomparably huge figure suddenly appeared before the eyes of countless cultivators. He had bronze-colored skin and coiled muscles that resembled a dragon. The terrifying figure was at least 10,000 feet tall. That kind of majestic aura filled the air with a heavy pressure. A giant, one of the 100 primordial races, the Titan giant race. The aura exuded from this giant swept up a violent gale in the void. A vast pressure was constantly being emitted. It was as if the heavens and earth were dwarfed in front of him. His golden hair fluttered wildly behind his head, giving him an unruly temperament. Oomph! How can a grand event like the myriad treasures Crimson Tide be absent from the Titan Giant clan? I, Laze, will join the fun too. How can we let you humans monopolize the beauty? Leja, the golden-haired Titan, scanned the experts of the human clan with his two huge eyes, and a heavy pressure burst forth from him. It brought a great deal of pressure to all the experts. Bang, bang, bang. Leja was fearless in the face of the Crimson Tide. He took 3 steps forward, and with each step, his gigantic feet stomped on the void, destroying it inch by inch. Destructive energy exploded and bombarded Leja's body, but it didn't cause him any damage. It was as if he was stepping on flat ground. Myriad lightning in the heavens, heed my command. Lightning shall destroy the world. Leja opened his mouth and uttered a command. As a Titan, he was born with a huge body. When he opened his mouth, his voice was so loud that it sounded as if thousands of lightning bolts were roaring at the same time. It was full of majesty, like the might of the heavens, and shook the entire void. Many cultivators felt as if thunder was roaring in their heads. Their blood and chi surged, and their minds were shaken. Their ears, noses, mouths, and eyes were all bleeding. Crack! Bolts of golden lightning fell on Leja's head. In an instant, the sky above him turned into a terrifying lightning zone. Each bolt of lightning contained a terrifying power that could destroy everything. Under the lightning, Laze seemed to be the god that controlled the lightning. With a wave of his hand, thousands of bolts of lightning fell from the sky and blasted on the Crimson Tide. It was as if thousands of tons of explosives had been dropped into the Crimson Tide. Countless treasures were blown out of the Crimson Tide. Leja waved his hand and grabbed the most dazzling treasures. He glanced coldly at the human cultivators and said, "Humans are nothing more than this. You're nothing compared to your ancestors back then." 10 years later, The Titan tribe will officially return to the land of origin. With that, he turned and disappeared into the void. It was as if Leju wasn't here for the treasures, but to send a message to the humans. Tens of thousands of treasures were blasted out of the crimson tide by Leju. In the void, countless mysterious figures appeared one after another. There was the heavenly human tribe with wings on their backs, the three-eyed god tribe with a divine eye on their forehead, the beastman tribe with fur all over but beast heads on their heads, and the Shura tribe with a pair of demonic horns on their heads and a murderous aura. There was the multi-armed tribe with 1,000 arms and so on. They followed behind Lei Zhe and revealed themselves. Every single one of them carried a boundless and powerful aura as they swept through the treasures that were flying everywhere. The heavenly human tribe will officially return to the origin continent in 10 years. The three-eyed divine race will officially return to the origin continent in 10 years. My Azura clan will return to the origin continent in 10 years. Ultimatums came out from the mouths of all the members of the 100 races as if they had agreed beforehand. This was a declaration to the human race. This declaration wasn't just limited to the God-fallen abyss. It spread to the outside world, to the purple gold continent. On the purple gold mainland, a vast aura poured down from the void and enveloped a large area. Countless people and living beings were forced to kneel on the ground involuntarily. At the same time, the declaration of the 100 races was like the laws of the world, rumbling into the ears of countless living beings. 10 years later, the 100 races would return. The significance of this declaration was enough to shake the hearts of countless factions. It was hard to imagine what it meant. The purple gold mainland had always been dominated by the human race. Once the 100 races returned, it meant that the era of the human race's dominance would be gone forever. The continent would enter an era of chaos and excitement. In the abyss, even the crimson tide couldn't stop the cultivators from being shocked by the 100 races declaration. It was as if countless waves were about to drown their consciousness in an instant. This piece of news was too shocking and important. It could almost change the entire structure of the world. Kill, kill, kill. At this moment, countless soldier souls in the abyss spat out murderous words as they charged toward the crimson tide. Help! Who can save me? It's the soldier souls. The soldier souls are coming. Heavens, the soldier souls only know how to kill. They've never been rational. They'll kill anything they see. We're dead for sure this time. The soldier souls are charging toward the crimson tide. Could it be that the soldier souls have some mysterious connection with the crimson tide? In an instant, the tens of millions of cultivators who were pressed to the ground by the crimson tide felt their hearts turn cold when they saw the countless soldier souls charging toward them. If the soldier souls charged over, they, who were caught in the middle, would not be able to escape the fate of death. The fear in their hearts flooded their minds. Lunatic Emperor, this is a good chance. This is the final step of the Crimson Tide's formation. Once the soldier souls enter the Crimson Tide will erupt with unparalleled momentum. It will follow the guidance of the treasure bowl and the money tree and rush into the abyss. During this process, the Crimson Tide is almost unstoppable. It's almost impossible for those human experts to seize the treasures as easily as before. I'm afraid that once they use their divine abilities, they will immediately be chopped into thousands of pieces by the soldier souls in the Crimson Tide. Unknowingly, Ming's eyes had narrowed into slits. When he saw the soldier souls, he immediately shouted excitedly, "Quick, use the divine eyes of heaven's punishment. When the soldier souls are killing those cultivators, use the divine eyes of heaven's punishment to seize the souls of the primordial spirits from the soldier souls." There are tens of millions of cultivators there. If the souls of tens of millions of cultivators are sucked into the divine eyes of heaven's punishment, the power of the divine eyes will definitely increase greatly. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. At this time, the Crimson Tide had already begun. Even if Di Shurtion used the divine eyes of heaven's punishment, it would not attract too much attention at this time. It was a great opportunity to seize benefits in the chaos. Good. The opportunity is gone in a flash. It won't come back again. If I missed such a great opportunity, I'd be a fool. Tian's eyes flickered with divine light. Suddenly, his temperament changed greatly. It was as if he had suddenly risen from hibernation. His temperament was full of sharpness. A good man should take action when it's time. Don't say that a woman's heart is wrapped in a man's body. His aura surged and his sharpness soared. Under the contrast, Tian's body seemed to have suddenly become incomparably tall in an instant. Tian, seeing Tian's change, Baihu could not help but call out in surprise. However, there was a look of turmoil in her eyes. Divine eyes of heaven's punishment, open, Tian shouted decisively. Between his eyebrows, countless mysterious purple divine lights burst out from the purple mark. The divine lights contained a supreme majesty that was above heaven and earth. It was as if God had opened his eyes. The purple mark continued to open to both sides, and a purple gold eye suddenly appeared. There was only an endless indifference in the eye. Divine eyes of heaven's punishment, soul catcher. Tian's mind was immersed in an inexplicable realm. He was unprecedentedly calm, and he was able to grasp every change in his body and his heart. His mind moved, and he spat out a sentence. The climax is coming. Brothers, help to hold it up. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 539. Swoosh. Intense sounds of something breaking through the air could be heard. A beam of purple divine light shot out from the eye of divine punishment and swept toward the direction of the crimson tide. This divine light was the soul absorbing divine light from the eye of the divine punishment god. Wherever the divine light went, a strange power would immediately spread out from the divine light and spread in all directions. It covered the entire area. The speed of the divine light reached an unimaginable level. In an instant, it appeared in front of the crimson tide, piercing through heaven and earth. It swept in all directions. A majestic aura, a supreme majesty, and a powerful pressure spread out in all directions. Wherever the divine light swept, all the living beings felt that their souls were out of control, as if they were about to fly out of their bodies. It almost made everyone turn pale with fright. Oh no, what kind of divine light is this? My primordial spirit is shaking. Who is trying to take my primordial spirit? What kind of divine power is this? Even my primordial spirit is shaking. The divine light swept across the cultivators who were unable to move due to the pressure from the red tide. These cultivators only felt that their souls were showing signs of going out of control, and they almost fainted on the spot. However, the weakest cultivators who entered the abyss were tribulation transcendence cultivators. Most of them had already surpassed immortal ascension and entered the immortal realm to become immortals. There were even a large number of immortal kings and immortal dukes. With the influence of the crimson tide, even the soul-absorbing divine light of the eye of divine punishment could not take their primordial spirits out of their bodies. They could only wait for the moment when their primordial spirits were killed and their primordial spirits left their bodies to take their primordial spirits. Kill, 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 destroy everything. Cold, murderous cries came from the mouths of countless soul soldiers. They looked at the millions of cultivators with blood-red eyes. The soldier souls that filled the sky rushed over, like a flood that crushed an ant's nest. Suddenly, thousands of bloody lights flashed, and countless cultivators were killed by the soldier soul. Countless primordial spirits came out of their bodies and tried to escape. Killing intent flashed in the soldier soul's eyes, and it was about to destroy the godly souls again. Heavenly punishment divine eye, soul absorbing divine light, soul return, divine soul return. When Tian saw this, he was overjoyed. He focused even more of his attention on the heavenly punishment divine eye. The divine light rapidly swept across the entire battlefield. Within the divine light, there were strange prayers that sounded like they were summoning souls. Within the divine light, there were strands of strange energy that rapidly fell on those souls. If these souls still had their physical bodies, then with their strength, even if the heavenly punishment divine, I was a heaven-defying divine ability, it would still be very difficult to truly shake their souls. However, once the souls left their bodies, they encountered the soul-absorbing divine light that specifically countered souls. Immediately, these souls did not have the slightest ability to resist and were all enveloped by the divine light. As soon as they fell into the divine light, those divine souls were sucked into the nether prison in the divine eye. They all entered one after another. Good. Divine souls, so many divine souls. This is how it should be. The more divine souls there are, the more benefits it will bring to the nether prison. All jailers, capture all these divine souls for me. Use torture on them. Interrogate them about their cultivation methods and dig out all the secrets in their heads. When Nether saw the endless stream of divine souls being sucked into the nether prison by the soul-absorbing divine light, he was so excited that his whole dragon body trembled violently. Those divine souls all had bewildered eyes, as if even their minds were shocked by the soldier soul. They did not come back to their senses. Swoosh! There are 19 levels in Hell Prison, and each level had 10,000 jailers. In total, there was a total of 190,000 jailers. The jailers were all wearing purple armor, and their eyes were filled with fanatical loyalty. They were absolutely loyal to Tion. At this moment, when they heard Nether's order, a black iron chain appeared in their hands. This iron chain was called the soul-absorbing chain, and it had an incomparable restraining power against divine souls. Once bound by it, no matter how glorious you were in life, you would not be able to break free. The soul-hooking chains danced in the air and quickly tied up the large number of falling spiritual souls. Moreover, it wasn't just one spiritual soul that was tied up. Like a string of gourds, each chain directly tied up a few or even dozens of spiritual souls. Then, they quickly threw them into the purgatory. Plunder like crazy. When Sakura saw countless godly souls falling into his god's eye of heaven's punishment like a tide, his heart was even more excited. This kind of plundering pleasure almost instantly pervaded his mind, and his entire spirit became excited. The true force of the Emperor in his body kept pouring into the divine eye. It supported the operation of the divine eye. This was plundering. It was naked plundering. Moreover, he was plundering divine souls right in front of the soldier soul. This kind of excitement and pleasure was unparalleled. Often, when the soldier soul was about to wipe out the divine soul, the divine light swept over and the divine soul fell directly into the divine light. The soldier soul was indeed born to kill. Coupled with the huge number of soldier souls, in an instant, countless cultivators fell down in large numbers like grass being cut down. Tion followed behind and reaped the benefits. Divine souls, a large number of divine souls, were irreplaceable for the divine eye of punishment and the expansion of the nether prison. Tion vaguely felt that as long as there were more divine souls in the nether prison to a certain extent, there would be a huge change for the divine eye of punishment and endless benefits would be obtained. Usually, such an opportunity could not be found. Now, it was simply a heaven-sent opportunity. Brother Tion Fa's divine eye of punishment really has a heaven-defying ability. It can even snatch divine souls right in front of the soldier soul. This boldness is indeed his usual style. The divine eye of punishment is really overbearing. However, I'm afraid it will attract the attention of those who have bad intentions. Plunder divine souls? If all the divine souls of these 10 million cultivators are absorbed, I'm afraid Brother D's strength will definitely soar again. The mirror in the void did not disappear. The scene of the soul-absorbing divine light snatching divine souls right in front of the soldier soul fell clearly into the eyes of the demon kings and even the 10 million demons. At this moment, even the rock demon king and the others could not help but have an indescribable feeling for him. The way countless demons looked at D. Shirtion quietly changed. However, the consumption of energy when using the divine eye of punishment was still quite terrifying. Feeling that more than half of the true force in his body had been consumed, he hurriedly took out the god of wine gourd and poured spiritual wine into his mouth to recover his true force. Humph! Someone is secretly plundering divine souls. D. Shirtion's divine eye of punishment was too shocking. When it was plundering divine souls, it was almost immediately noticed by many experts of the human clan, especially when they realized the amazing power of the soul-absorbing divine light. They could not help but pour in their divine eyes, wanting to follow the divine light to find the expert who was secretly plundering divine souls. However, the divine eye of punishment directly broke out of the void and could not find D. Shirtion's specific location by following the divine light. It was also futile to use divine thoughts. However, it had already attracted the attention of many experts, and they were secretly on guard. This was also a case of where there is a gain, there is a loss. Humph! How dare you plunder divine souls so arrogantly in front of me? You really don't take me seriously. Well, if I let you plunder divine souls in front of us, all of us will lose face. Reincarnation passage, open. An indifferent and emotionless voice came from the void. As the voice fell, a pitch-black divine light suddenly fell and appeared in front of the crimson tide. Crack! The divine light fell on the ground, and a huge crack suddenly appeared on the ground. An unknown force emerged from the crack, forming a pitch-black vortex. The vortex spewed out a strong reincarnation force. All of a sudden, the whole world was bound. The souls that had been slain by the soldier's soul immediately fell into the reincarnation passage under the power of the reincarnation force. As soon as they entered the passage, they were immediately supported by the reincarnation force and entered the cycle of reincarnation. They were reincarnated. At the same time, the number of divine souls absorbed by the soul-absorbing divine light immediately decreased by a lot. Kill! 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 Countless soldier spirits shouted. Tens of millions of cultivators could not even stop them and were all killed in the blink of an eye. Thousands of soldier spirits rushed straight into the crimson tide. Rumble! The crimson tide, which was already emitting a strong aura, immediately became more terrifying. The color of the crimson tide suddenly turned blood red. The crimson tide, which was not very dangerous before, suddenly spewed out a tragic, murderous intent. There was a cold, murderous intent everywhere in the crimson tide. There was an additional fierce aura in the crimson tide. The integration of the soldier spirits made the crimson tide more lethal. It was no longer like before, when it could only take treasures with divine abilities. If it wanted to take treasures, it would have to ask the soldier spirits for permission first. Haha, benefits, earth-shattering benefits. There are 8 million divine souls. Each of these divine souls was a peerless talent when they were alive. They were the forest of experts. With the power of their divine souls, Nether Prison would probably begin to evolve again, transform again, and be upgraded. The heavenly punishment will become stronger. Maybe I can even get more divine abilities. Although a mysterious expert in the void had intervened and swept away millions of divine souls with the reincarnation divine ability, 8 million divine souls still fell into the Nether Prison. Even so, Nether was already very happy and excited. He retracted his divine light and took a deep breath. He knew in his heart that he had really gained a great benefit this time. Ming, immediately interrogate these souls for all the secrets they know in their minds. Organize them into a book and force them to tell us all the cultivation methods, secret arts, and even supernatural powers and Taoist arts they have learned. These cultivation methods and supernatural powers will be the foundation for our demon city to establish a foothold in this world and to quickly expand our strength. You must not neglect this task. D. Shirtion hurriedly ordered. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 540. How could Tion miss such a great opportunity? Each of these divine souls could be said to be an outstanding talent of the human clan. Their cultivation methods, understanding of cultivation, and even various magic arts, divine abilities, and secret techniques were as numerous as the hairs on an ox. Now, they had all fallen into the nether prison. Each of the 19 levels of the nether prison had the ability to make the dead speak and turn the dead into living corpses. Under the premise that they could no longer use the power of their divine souls to resist the various punishments, it was almost impossible to still keep the secrets in their hearts. If they could really do it, they could be said to be the group of people with the strongest willpower in the world. However, even so, under the means of dark, the secrets would still be dug out. The power of the divine souls of these 8 million cultivators was immeasurable. Once all of them were integrated into the nether prison, or under various punishments, they would produce negative energy, such as fear. If they were integrated into the nether prison, it would be enough to make the heavenly punishment divine level up again. Perhaps there would be another strange change in the nether prison, evolving mysterious things, and giving birth to another innate divine restriction in the heavenly punishment divine eye. The benefits would be unimaginable. This was one of the reasons. The other was the cultivation methods and divine abilities in their minds. If they were recorded one by one in the immortal scrolls, there would be at least hundreds of millions of scrolls. Among them, there would be no lack of top cultivation methods and divine abilities. TSK. Madman D, don't worry. Dark showed a ferocious face. After a few strange laughs, it shouted, "In my hands, I'm not afraid that they won't spit out everything they know." With these cultivation methods, the number of cultivation methods and divine abilities in the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion will instantly increase by 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times. I guarantee that in the future, the Demon City will not lack ancient books and cultivation methods. In this kind of matter, if I claim to be second, who dares to claim to be first? Who is it? It was the soul of the book of the underworld. In ancient times, it had interrogated countless experts. This kind of thing was simply a piece of cake for it. Okay, I'll leave everything to you. Tion nodded and left everything in Nether prison to it. After all, Nether was the professional. If a force, a sect, or a race wanted to be passed down for a long time, it was important to have an absolute powerhouse. However, the most basic thing was to have a strong foundation, enough to let the later generations follow their people and have the opportunity to grow stronger. And this required cultivation methods, a large number of secret arts and divine abilities. Only by using this to nurture the younger generation could countless experts emerge from the younger generation. This was the true Tao of a strong race. This was also the reason why Tion took the risk of using the eye of heavenly punishment to steal the godly soul from soldier soul. Let's not mention the various interrogation methods of Ming in Nether prison for now. However, with her ability to make the dead speak, it was practically only a matter of time before she achieved her objective. Who immediately prepared to refine 100 million immortal scrolls. In the exquisite pagoda, in the jade pool of the Demon City, Chun-Chi's eyes were full of majesty. Looking at who was standing in front of her, she ordered in a deep voice, "Immediately ask your subordinates to find the materials to refine the immortal scrolls. The refining method is in the Sutra Depository. 100 million scrolls must be made in the shortest time possible." The longer Chen-Si sat on the seat of the Demon Empress, the stronger the natural majesty she exuded. It was a kind of grace, nobility, and mystery. Her beauty made her worthy of the title of Demon Empress. During these years in the Jade Pool, she had left an indelible mark in the hearts of the demons and won their respect. At this moment, who could be said to be in charge of all the big and small things in the Demon City? In the Demon City, she could be said to be a housekeeper. He stood respectfully in front of Chen-Shi. After he heard what Chen-Shi said, a look of wisdom flashed in his eyes. He thought to himself, the Immortal Scroll is a peak item used by experts in the ancient era to record and store cultivation techniques and important information. It was far superior to jade slips. Although the ancient books in the Sutra Depository were all recorded with the Immortal Scrolls, but now there are 100 million of them. Could it be that the Demon Empress had obtained a large number of cultivation methods outside? Suddenly, various thoughts flashed through her mind. She had some guesses, but she did not dare to guess rashly. She hurriedly bowed and said, "Yes, I will go and prepare now. I will definitely refine 100 million Immortal Scrolls in the shortest time possible. With the number of blacksmiths we found from the human tribe and the ones cultivated by the demon tribe, it should not be difficult." "Good. Do it as soon as possible. These Immortal Scrolls will be of great use." Chen-Shi nodded slightly. She signaled him to leave, who agreed and left. He hurriedly went to refine the Immortal Scrolls. Rumble. At this moment, in the abyss, the Crimson Tide finally burst out with its terrifying power after hibernation. The entry of the Soldier Soul was like filling up a heavy truck with gasoline and winding up an alarm clock. With a boom, it finally burst out with earth-shattering power. The entire Crimson Tide suddenly turned crimson. In the red tide, what one saw was no longer treasures but a real tide. It was water. There was absolutely no fake water. However, it was not ordinary water but blood-red blood water. The blood water directly stirred up a huge blood wave. This blood wave was endless, and there was an undercurrent surging in it. For a moment, it exuded an extremely strong, murderous aura, revealing an endless sense of danger. The red tide has really turned into a tide, a tsunami. The treasures are hidden in the tide and disappeared. This water is definitely not ordinary. The red tide is really going to erupt. The Crimson Tide at this time is the Crimson Tide that can truly strike fear into the hearts of all worlds. Even the ancient giants will die in front of it. Whether it is the indestructible body or the immortal primordial spirit, they will all be swallowed by the red tide. Tisk TSK. Now, the 10 major immortal sects will really start to harvest the treasures. It is said that each of the 10 major immortal sects has a divine artifact. Each divine artifact has the power to suppress fate and is as powerful as a connate spirit treasure. This will definitely be an eye-opener. In front of the red tide, the 10 major immortal sects will not be able to do as they please. Maybe they will be injured by the red tide and won't be able to escape unscathed. At that time, if I take the opportunity to rob them, I will definitely make a lot of money. I will continue to hide. Wait for the right time. Previously, a mysterious divine light came out to sweep the divine soul. It hid in the dark and did not reveal its identity. It must be a master who is preparing to eat alone. Maybe I could take advantage of it when the time comes. Countless thoughts flashed through the minds of the many hidden experts in the void. Boom, boom, boom. The red tide rolled forward. The red tide was tens of thousands of feet high. It was as if it could topple mountains and overturn seas. With an indomitable momentum, it rolled forward. Humph! I don't believe that the red tide can block Ai's divine ability. Juri, devour all treasures. However, in this world, there were always people who did not know their own strength and did not believe in the supernatural. An Emperor Realm expert in black with a sun crown on his head stood valiantly in front of the red tide. He did not leave. Instead, he seemed to know that there was a tiger in the mountain, so he went to the mountain. He could only watch helplessly as the crimson tide surged toward him. He shouted. Countless mysterious black lights burst out from his body. His entire body suddenly turned into a black, three-legged golden crow. The golden crow emitted a boundless black light and turned into a pitch-black sun. The black sun hung high in the sky. It did not emit sunlight, but a strange black light that was full of corrosive power. In an instant, with the black sun as the center, a black curtain spread wildly in all directions. Wherever it went, the world was pitch black. The black light seemed to be devouring the whole world. It quickly enveloped the towering red tide. As long as you are enveloped by my divine light, everything in this range will be under I's control. Devour, quickly devour the red tide. Everything in the red tide will belong to I. I's Zhu is a peerless divine ability. It is unparalleled. The Emperor Realm expert shouted arrogantly. It was as if he had seen thousands of treasures fall into his pocket. Boom, boom, boom. However, just as Zhu Ri's divine light was about to envelop the red tide, a huge blood saber that was tens of thousands of feet long suddenly appeared in the red tide. Without hesitation, the 3,000-meter-long blood saber slashed at Zhu Ri. The blood saber was condensed from countless killing chi. The killing chi in it almost instantly swept the whole world, forming a blood-red cloud in the sky. The sharp aura within the saber seemed as if it was going to split the entire world into two halves. The mighty Zhu Ri and the black curtain that filled the sky were like a piece of black cloth under the blood saber. It was instantly cut open by the blood saber and slashed at the black sun. Wah! A mournful cry came from the black sun. The black golden crow, which was filled with a thick death chi, was cut in half by the blood-red saber. Blood rained down from the sky, and a rain of blood fell from the sky. The red tide rolled and engulfed the black sun. It was not affected at all. It roared and rushed forward domineeringly. The immortal Emperor expert was as weak as tofu in front of the red tide. Hiss! The experts who witnessed this scene gasped in their hearts. They finally felt the true power of the red tide. The moment the soldier soul entered, its sharpness was no longer something that ordinary experts could resist. It was impossible to obtain the treasures in the red tide as easily as before. Those who stood in the way of the red tide would die without a burial place. Eternal kingdom, suppress the heavens. Eternal immortality, cross the other shore. Suppress, suppress, suppress. At this moment, above the red tide, an awe-inspiring voice suddenly reverberated in the void. As the voice reverberated, hundreds of millions of divine lights sprinkled down like a tide. Following that, all kinds of mysterious prayers spread out along with the divine light. Figures of gods, demons, Buddhas, and immortals that seemed to be illusory and yet seemed to be real flew freely in the divine light. Brothers, after 12 o'clock, please vote for Myriad Demon. Push Myriad Demon back to the ranking list. Rise, rise, rise. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 541. Their faces all revealed a kind of great freedom and a beautiful expression of detachment. It was as if there were no worries, only eternal joy and infinite beauty. All the bad things had disappeared. The sound of prayer came from their mouths, making the aura around them seem incomparably solemn and thick, sacred and inviolable. At the same time, there were milky white threads constantly emerging from their bodies. Those were the incense and willpower that Di Shirtian was quite familiar with, the power of faith. Looking at the figures of the gods and demons that appeared in the divine light, it was impossible to distinguish between real and illusory. However, there were so many of them that it was hard to imagine. In the void, there seemed to be countless countries emerging. Each of these countries was incomparably huge, and there were more than billions of people in each country. These people prayed almost every day. During the prayer, the incense and willpower emitted from their bodies naturally disappeared into the void. Boom, boom. A huge crystal disc, like a flying saucer, emerged from the void. This disc was as large as a rock, tens of thousands of feet in size. As soon as it appeared, it immediately covered half of the sky. Thousands of divine lights constantly burst out from this disc in all directions. Eternal Kingdom. This was the divine artifact of the Supreme Mystery Sect, one of the top 10 immortal sects, the Eternal Kingdom. As soon as the Eternal Kingdom appeared, a vast aura poured out. It was as if In an instant, the color of the whole world had all condensed on it. The entire kingdom was shrouded in a kind of sacred and inviolable divine light. The space around it strangely became distorted, as if it could not bear the powerful aura emitted by the eternal kingdom. It was as if the eternal kingdom contained the mystery of space and time. It could break through the void at any time, crossing the distance of time and space and shuttling through. Anyone who saw it at first glance would only have a deep sense of shock. The eternal kingdom, the head of the top 10 divine artifacts, it is indeed a divine artifact. I actually have an impulse to surrender at first glance. It can almost suppress the heavens and 10,000 worlds. Its power is endless, and it can also have the power of time and space. It can easily break through time and space, cross the boundary of heaven and earth, and go wherever it wants to go. Too powerful. The kingdom of eternity can create so many dimensions, said Meng Hao. Humans live in those dimensions, and they form countries. All of them have faith and are loyal to the supreme profound sect. Every day, the amount of joss sticks generated by them is unimaginable. If they fuse with the kingdom of eternity, wouldn't the kingdom of eternity grow stronger? In addition, the creatures inside had all been brainwashed by the supreme profound sect and were loyal to them, so they could choose disciples and successors inside. No wonder the supreme mystery sect can stand above all the other sects and become the head of the 10 great immortal sections. Countless immortals, gods, Buddhas, and devils were converted. Legend has it that the kingdom of eternity is a place without worries or pain, a place where one can live forever. From the looks of it, it should have some kind of mysterious power that can purify all living beings. The power of faith? Wasn't that the godly path of the past? Only cultivators of the godly path would collect incense and divine weapons. Could it be that the country of eternity had something to do with the godly path? I need to borrow the power of faith to strengthen and refine this supreme treasure. For a time, there were exclamations of surprise in the void. They were all stunned by the country of eternity. The appearance of the country of eternity naturally couldn't escape Di Shitian's eye of heaven's punishment. He clearly saw everything that happened, especially the countless mysterious spaces in the country of eternity and the large number of countries that existed in those spaces. He even saw the collection of incense and power of faith. Almost on the spot, a huge hurricane blew in his heart. There is the aura of the divine path in the country of eternity. This is a divine weapon born from the combination of the immortal path and the divine path. The 10 great immortal sects cultivate the immortal path, but even the divine path is involved. Why does the combination of the immortal path and the divine path feel so familiar? Di Shitian muttered to himself. No, it's that mysterious jade slip. A thought flashed through his mind like a bolt of lightning, and the mysterious jade slip he had obtained all those years ago suddenly appeared in his mind. Within the jade slip was a record of the fusion of the immortal Tao and the divine Tao, and the crystallization of the fusion was the divine crystal that he was continuously refining at this moment. Although the materials used to refine the country of eternity weren't divine crystals, they had the same effect. They were almost the pinnacle of the fusion of the immortal path and the divine path. What a majestic aura. There's a kind of eternal power in it. This god artifact might really have the power to rival a natural spirit treasure. The kingdom of eternity is a supreme treasure formed from the fusion of immortal and divine Taos. Dark exclaimed in surprise. The kingdom of eternity is a supreme treasure formed from the fusion of immortal and divine Taos, while the myriad demon city is also forged from divine crystals formed from the fusion of divine Tao and immortal Tao. With a few connate spirit treasures added to the mix, I wonder if the kingdom of eternity or the myriad demon city will be more powerful when the two collide in the future. The scene of the collision of the two supreme treasures reverberated in his mind. Who knew how many worlds would be destroyed in that collision, shattering the vacuum and shattering the stars? The power of faith seems to be an incredible power. Even the 10 immortal sects value it so highly. In the future, when the demon city is completed, it'll evolve into countless dimensions. I might as well move China into the dimension created by the demon city and have them pray for me every day. I'll guide the power of faith into the ancient city and make it stronger. After seeing the country of eternity, Di Shirtian had a flash of inspiration. Why didn't he imitate the country of eternity? He had a lot of power of faith as well. He'd planted spies in the human race long ago. Suppress, suppress, suppress. Countless creatures in the country of eternity shouted at the same time. All their voices turned into the word suppress in an instant. Endless power of faith poured into the country of eternity. Immediately, the country of eternity burst forth with sparkling divine light and crashed down on the crimson tide. When the country of eternity landed on the crimson tide, the country of eternity erupted with boundless, eternal power. It was as if time had stopped completely at this moment. In this instant, it was already in eternity. Eternity was unchanging. Eternity was eternal. The crimson tide that was roaring and charging forward was suppressed by the eternal power of the country of eternity. However, the country of eternity didn't stop the crimson tide. The crimson tide was still roaring and charging forward. But the country of eternity suppressed the crimson tide like an ancient boat that would never sink. At the bottom of the country of eternity, a large crack appeared. A strong suction force came from the crack. They crazily absorbed the red tide, and even the countless treasures contained in the red tide. Kill, kill, kill. The crimson tide contained countless soldier spirits. When they saw the country of eternity descending to suppress the crimson tide, they burst out with shocking murderous intent. The yellow-grade soldier spirits turned into thousands of battle blades and crazily attacked from all directions. The Shin-grade soldier spirits were incomparably fierce. Endless blade chi burst out from their bodies. Suddenly, the country of eternity was subjected to countless terrifying attacks. Boom, boom, boom. However, the country of eternity lived up to its name as the most precious treasure of the 10 great immortal sects. A layer of crystal-clear divine light burst out from its surface. With the protection of the divine light, the thousands of attacks bombarded the divine light. Although the divine light fluctuated violently, the attacks of the soldier spirits were all ineffective. Boom! A blood-red vortex appeared in the crimson tide. At the same time, it spun violently. In the vortex, a human-shaped soldier spirit held a bronze battle blade in its hand. It looked coldly at the huge country of eternity. Its body was still emitting a strong and cold, murderous intent. The human-shaped soldier spirit produced a weapon in its hand. It was an Earth-grade soldier spirit. An Earth-grade soldier spirit was comparable to an ancient giant, an honorable expert. Moreover, a soldier spirit was usually able to fight against several experts of the same level. As soon as it appeared, its murderous intent burst out and directly condensed into rolling blood clouds in the sky. Whoosh! At the same time, similar vortexes appeared in the crimson tide. There were 10 vortexes in a row. Without exception, an Earth-grade soldier spirit emerged from each of the vortexes. Each soldier spirit held a terrifying battle blade in its hand. They directly surrounded the country of eternity. They hadn't even made a move. Just by revealing themselves, the powerful auras of the dozen or so Earth-grade soul soldiers caused the space in the area to solidify. Compass of heavenly secrets. Deduce the heavenly secrets and find the flaws of the crimson tide. Search for treasures. At this time, there was a roar. A compass that was hundreds of feet large appeared in the sky above the crimson tide. The compass, the heavenly lake, the needle, and all kinds of directions perfectly appeared. The needle spun quickly in an instant, enveloping the compass in a mysterious aura. It was trying to deduce the flaws of the heavenly secrets and use it to obtain treasures. This was the divine artifact of the Celestial Arcanum sect, the compass of heavenly secrets. Looking at the spatial power contained in the compass, it was obvious that there were also countless countries in the compass, generating incense and willpower for them. Black Sky Treasure Box. Collect the treasures. At this time, an ancient green treasure box traveled through the void and appeared in the sky above the crimson tide. On the treasure box, there were countless mysterious and ancient patterns. At the same time, countless talismans were flashing madly. Waves of mysterious power were emitted. Vaguely, there seemed to be a mysterious power contained in the treasure box. At this moment, the 10 immortal sects could no longer hold back. They all revealed their traces and directly attacked the Crimson Tide. Moreover, they all made a big move. They wanted to directly suppress the Crimson Tide with their divine artifacts. TSK. Even if the divine artifacts are extraordinary, it's impossible to suppress the Crimson Tide. Crazy Emperor, just watch. If something goes wrong, their divine artifacts will be greatly damaged. Ming watched excitedly as he laughed strangely. Please vote. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 542. Heavily injured. Di Shirtian's eyes flashed with coldness. That's a good thing. If they weren't heavily injured, how could I fish in troubled waters and seek benefits from the 10 major immortal sects? How dare you? This is the lunatic emperor I know. You're really lawless. TSK. What do you want to do? This time, I Ming will support you no matter what. Just thinking about fighting with these human race experts in the Million Treasure Crimson Tide makes me excited. Ming's eyes shone with a blazing light as he hurriedly shouted at Di Shirtian. He wasn't worried. From what he saw, Di Shirtian never did anything unprepared. Once he decided to do something, he must have considerable confidence. Moreover, now that the Million Treasure Crimson Tide had formed, even an unparalleled expert couldn't control everything. If he really wanted to escape, it wasn't impossible. Di Shirtian's face was cold and arrogant. An innate arrogance in his bones naturally flowed out. He said in a deep voice, "Since I've already revealed my divine ability because of the 8 million divine souls, and used the heavenly punishment divine, to plunder divine souls, I've exposed myself. Even if I continue to hide like this, those experts will still be wary. They want to take advantage of me. It's almost impossible. It's meaningless for me to continue hiding. Since that's the case, there's no need to hide anymore. I'll make a move when it's time." The Million Treasure Crimson Tide is triggered by the innate spirit treasure. It's unstoppable. Even if the 10 major immortal sects use the 10 major divine weapons to suppress it, they will definitely be heavily injured. This time, the Crimson Tide and the strongest battle force of the human race will definitely shake the 10 major divine weapons and the Crimson Tide at the same time. There will be a flaw. This is a great opportunity for me to make a move and let the human race suffer a great loss. Shirtian, you want to target the 10 major immortal sects? Baihu's expression changed when she heard this. She looked at him in horror. There was deep worry in her eyes. Don't worry. Di Shirtian's mind moved. In the demon residence, the 5th-rank Black Lotus spun wildly, continuously absorbing a huge amount of heaven and earth power and desire power from the void. Then, it spewed out a pure and huge amount of Emperor True Force. It rushed into each of his demon veins and filled every inch of his flesh and blood. If it was before the 100 Races declaration, perhaps I would have some concerns. However, now that the 100 Races have declared that they will return to the origin continent in 10 years, the human race is now the main character of the world. When the 100 Races return, the human race will be the first to bear the brunt. Even if I were to intervene now and ruin their good deed, their thousands of years of meticulous planning, I would still have to face the consequences. I'm afraid that no matter how unbearable it is, they will still have to endure for the time being. Di Shirtian's eyes flickered. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, he had roughly figured out the situation that would appear on the purple gold continent in the future. Previously, he had planned to hide in the dark and make a big profit at the last moment. But now, that was no longer his only goal. He thought to himself, humph, the declaration of the 100 races came at the right time. The return of the 100 races may not be a bad thing for the demon race. It's a good opportunity to strengthen themselves. At this time, disrupting the human race's plan to strengthen itself was to reduce the human race's strength. If they didn't do this, they wouldn't have such an opportunity in the future. But it's the 10 great immortal sects that are coming. The sect masters of the 10 great immortal sects are all ancient giants and supremacies, together with the 10 great divine artifacts. Shirtian, if you, by who didn't hide the worry in her words. It's fine. D. Shirtian pulled a confident expression at the corner of his mouth. They are supremacies, but I am also a heavenly demon. His eyes flickered with a meaningful look. He dared to continue to have thoughts about the 10 great immortal sects at this time. How could he not have a trump card, a backup plan, or a killer move? Suppress. Suppress. The 10 great immortal sects each took out the supreme treasures that truly suppressed their sections. The kingdom of eternity, the compass of heavenly secrets, the Shintian treasure box, the book of overwhelming morality, the 10,000 sword green lotus, the jade vase, the 10,000 demons painting, the great void wheel, the 8 treasures pond of merit, and the heavenly star map. 10,000 rays of divine light fell from the void, turning into heavenly pillars. They landed on the red tide and froze it. Suppress. At the same time, they crazily plundered the treasures in the red tide. The 10 great divine artifacts suppressed the red tide, but they kept trembling violently. Endless terrifying power was brewing in the red tide, and it was erupting wildly. It kept attacking the 10 great divine artifacts, and the divine light formed by the 10 great divine artifacts was shaking violently, appearing to be flickering. Kill! 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 Countless soldier souls emerged from the red tide. There were countless yellow-grade soldier souls, thousands of profound-grade soldier souls, and earth-grade soldier souls. As the vortexes appeared, hundreds of them appeared in the blink of an eye. They led the countless soldier souls to surround the 10 great divine artifacts at the same time. Amidst the sounds of killing, the earth-grade soldier souls attacked at the same time. Hundreds of blood-red rays of light that were so condensed that they were almost solid turned into ferocious weapons. Some were sabers, some were swords, and some were spears. They all turned into terrifying shapes that were over 10,000 feet long and slammed toward the 10 god artifacts. These weapons seemed to be able to break through the boundary of time and space and directly pass through the void. They slashed at the 10 great divine artifacts with a loud bang. Each earth-grade soldier soul was a powerful existence comparable to a supremacy. Hundreds of such killers attacked the 10 great divine artifacts at the same time. Their momentum burst out with thousands of divine lights and instantly filled a radius of tens of thousands of miles. The vibrating void was constantly being annihilated inch by inch. Hundreds of such soldier souls attacked at the same time. Their power was so terrifying that even a peerless powerhouse would be blown to pieces on the spot. They would not be able to block their sharpness. However, in an instant, countless mysterious prayers came from the 10 great divine artifacts in the void. The prayers grew stronger and stronger, and endless incense and willpower poured into the respective divine artifacts. This attack that even a peerless powerhouse would find difficult to block was forcibly blocked. Although the divine lights trembled violently and flickered, they were unusually tenacious. They held on and did not break. However, in the space created by the 10 great divine artifacts, a large number of living beings' bodies collapsed in an instant. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere, shooting out in all directions. They died on the spot. Those who died were no less than tens of millions of living beings. The prayers sent out incense and willpower to support the divine artifacts, and the power of the soldier souls' attacks on the divine artifacts was directly transferred to them. The result was that they could not withstand it, and naturally, their bodies collapsed on the spot. Even the souls could not bear it. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, a heavy breathing sound reverberated in the air. Amidst this deep breathing sound, the entire air and even space inexplicably began to solidify. It was as if the atmosphere had suddenly become incomparably oppressive. Even the sound of one's own heartbeat could be heard. All of the countless soul soldiers surging out of the crimson tide seemed to have seen their emperor in an instant, and all of them abruptly stopped in their tracks. An unusually terrifying aura kept spreading in the air. It was as if even the crimson tide had fallen silent. The surrounding atmosphere became incomparably strange, and it was so quiet that even the sound of one's heartbeat could be heard clearly. This is? Tian's pupils contracted violently, and he could not help but hold his breath. Oh no, this is a heaven-grade soldier soul. A heaven-grade soldier soul. Even the most powerful experts would flee upon hearing its name. Let's go. Let's get out of here quickly. I'm afraid that the act of taking the treasures from the Crimson Tide has angered this terrifying existence. Among the 10 divine artifacts, some of the ancient existences of the 10 immortal sects could not help but exclaim, feeling a strong sense of danger approaching. They immediately drove the 10 divine artifacts away from here. Boom! Oh no! The space here has been imprisoned, and even the divine artifacts can't travel through it. 1,000 green lotus swords cut the vacuum. On the spot, the 10 divine artifacts wanted to escape, but they found that the surrounding void seemed to have been imprisoned by a powerful existence. Under this imprisonment, there was no way to break the void and travel out. Among them, the 1,000 green lotus swords, the divine artifact of the Sky Sword Valley, burst out with a brilliant green light. It spun violently, and hundreds of millions of green lotus petals turned into the sharpest battle swords in the world. Wherever they passed, the void was cut into hideous and terrifying cracks. He actually managed to break through the shackled void. Once the imprisonment was broken, the 10 divine artifacts turned around to escape. However, at this moment, the void suddenly distorted, and a strange scene appeared in the distortion. It was as if there was another world hidden in the void. Under the distortion, a strange island appeared. The island was incomparably huge, and if one looked closely, they would find that the island was actually made of countless weapons. On the island, there was a strange blood-colored tree. On the blood-colored tree, there was a huge bird's nest. In the nest, there was a strange blood-colored bird with 9 heads and 12 pairs of wings. The strange bird's 9 pairs of eyes were all closed, as if it was still in a deep sleep. Even if it did not move, there was a natural pressure pouring down, suppressing the abyss. Without seeing how it moved, 10 blood feathers flew out from the strange bird and fell straight down. They fell on the 10 divine artifacts. Crack! The 10 blood feathers were like the sharpest battle swords in the world, crossing the boundary of the void like lightning. It landed on the divine artifact, but the divine light on the divine artifact, which could block the attacks of tens of thousands of soldiers, was like nothing in front of the blood feather. The blood feather easily broke through the divine artifact and pierced through it. The 10 divine artifacts were blasted into the crimson tide by the blood feathers. Rumble! The crimson tide instantly stirred up tens of thousands of huge waves, and countless tides burst out in all directions, carrying a large number of treasures. With this blow, the void twisted mysteriously again, and the island and the strange bird disappeared at the same time. Sky Silkworm, Huang Quan, don't hold back and pour all of your power into my body. At this moment, Tian's eyes flashed, and he seized this rare opportunity, and he shouted, "Brothers, if you have votes, please vote a few. The climax is coming, and the blood-boiling time is coming. Give us some strength." To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 543. Yes, my lord. Tian, Can, and Huang Quan, who had been standing behind Di Shirtian, couldn't help but lick their lips when they heard the order, revealing a cruel expression. The vertical mark between their eyebrows flickered, and an inexplicable connection appeared between them. It was as if the three of them had become one in an instant. Waves of vast power poured into Di Shirtian's body from Tian, Kan, and Huang Quan's body. On the spot, this huge amount of pure energy quickly circulated in his meridians and actually transformed into waves of royal true power, pouring into the fifth-grade Black Lotus in the Demon Palace. Immediately, the fifth-grade Black Lotus started to revolve at an unbelievable speed. As it spun, the Black Lotus burst out with an unprecedentedly rich black light, and at a speed visible to the naked eye, it began to transform violently. Sixth-grade Black Lotus, seventh-grade Black Lotus, eighth-grade Black Lotus. In an instant, it transformed into a 10th-grade Black Lotus. Moreover, this transformation didn't stop, and it continued to transform. Vaguely, the 11th-grade Black Lotus seemed to be appearing, but it seemed to be lacking in stamina, and it was always in an indistinct state. Good, good, good. Lunatic D, you've really comprehended the wonders of the 100 Generations Slave Seal. You actually know how to use the 100 Generations Slave Seal to let Tian, Kan, and Huang Quan temporarily transfer their power to you. In a short period of time, your strength has become incomparably strong. Heavenly Demon, good, you're now at the peak of Great Demon. Since that's the case, I'll lend you a hand. In the Nether Prison, Dark could clearly feel the drastic changes in Di Shirtian's body. He couldn't help but laugh wildly, and the dragon power in his body also poured into his body. Suddenly, a tyrannical force gushed out from the divine eye of heaven's punishment, rushed into the demon mansion, and fell into the Black Lotus. Boom! With the help of this power, the Black Lotus broke through the shackles and transformed into an 11th grade Black Lotus. Once it reached the 10th grade, it would be the 9 transformations of a Yaodan. Above, that would be the Demonic Saint. With Ming's support, the 11th rank was not the limit. Since it was still breaking through, the Black Lotus emitted intense divine light. Countless profound talismans revolved around it. In the blink of an eye, the 12th rank appeared. The 11th grade was a demon sage, while the 12th grade was a heavenly demon. Boom, boom, boom. Sakura's body suddenly expanded crazily. 100 feet, 500 feet, 10,000 feet. In an instant, it kept climbing, and in the blink of an eye, it broke through to a gigantic body of 50,000 feet. Standing on the spot, there was an incomparably powerful feeling of shock. The tyrannical aura of a heavenly demon was stirring up the space around him, twisting inch by inch. It stirred up a terrifying hurricane, sweeping in all directions. Bang, bang, bang. Sakura took 3 steps forward. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble violently, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. Who is a heavenly demon in all directions? I am a heavenly demon. Di Shirtian's voice was like a terrifying thunderclap, ringing in the ears of the demons. The vast power caused the demons to involuntarily kneel down. There was a fanatical look in their eyes. The eyes of the Rock Demon King and the others were filled with disbelief. They could hardly believe what they were seeing. Shocked. They were completely shocked. A demon king who was just like them, an ancient demon king, expanded crazily in a few breaths like an inflated balloon. Powerful, incomparably powerful. A powerful force that controlled everything. Feeling the valiant power shuttling through his flesh and blood, the light in Sakura's eyes became even brighter, like a candle flame. Insight into heaven and earth. The invisible pressure caused the space to distort. It felt like the void in front of him would collapse inch by inch with just a thought. The surrounding heaven and earth were all under his control. Looking up, he seemed to be able to see the long river of destiny that shrouded all things in the world. Endless great Tao. There is endless power to destroy heaven and earth with every move. Heaven's punishment divine eye open. Di Shirtian shouted coldly, and the heaven's punishment divine eye between his eyebrows opened again. The moment the purple gold eyes opened, the whole world changed fundamentally in the divine eye. What he saw was not an ordinary scene, but an almost endless variety of rules and laws in the void. They kept changing rapidly around him, shuttling through. What the divine eye saw at this moment was not the surface, but the origin of heaven and earth, the structure of space, and the countless rules and laws in the world. At this moment, the heaven's punishment divine eye is truly under my control. I can use it as I wish without any restrictions. Cultivation can no longer restrain the power of the divine eye. Feeling the infinite power hidden in the heaven's punishment divine eye, Tian was secretly excited. This was the real, most powerful trump card. Going from Fey Monarch to Heaven Fey in one fell swoop, such a powerful feeling was definitely addictive. This was the trump card that Tian had prepared for the God's Fall Abyss. The Century Slave Seal was very mysterious. The most amazing thing was that this slave seal could let the servant's cultivation dharma power enter the host's body through the slave seal without any loss. It could be easily assimilated and turned into the host's power. This magical superposition could make the host's cultivation increase and expand at an incredible speed in an instant. In an instant, the host would reach a realm that he had never dared to imagine before. Moreover, this superposition of power did not have many sequelae. The only hidden danger was that Tian Silkworm and Huang Quan would lose all their cultivation in 3 days. They would have no combat power at all, and this secret method could be maintained for 1 day on Tian. After 1 day, all the power that did not belong to him would dissipate. He would fall back to his original cultivation realm. Sky Silkworm and Huang Quan, who were both at the peak of the great demon realm, had pushed Sakura's strength close to that of a demon saint. In addition to dark strength, he had already become a heavenly demon whose strength could shock the world and make ghosts and gods weep. Tian, what are you? Baihu looked at Tian, who had returned to his normal body, in disbelief. It seemed that she had not recovered from the shocking scene just now. You guys stay here for the time being. I'll go to the 10 immortal sects to seek revenge. No matter what, we can't let go of the flying treasures. Tian took a step forward. His body suddenly merged into the void and traveled through space. With just 1 step, he crossed a great distance and appeared in front of the million treasures Crimson Tide. As soon as he appeared, he clearly felt that there was a terrifying suction force spreading from the Crimson Tide below him. It fell on him as if a water ghost was pulling his feet down. Humph! Sakura was dressed in a black robe, and his long black hair was fluttering wildly behind his head. Tiger's soul was on his back, and his entire body was filled with an oppressive feeling. The devouring power that emerged from the Scarlet Tide was actually unable to shake his body. Above the Crimson Tide, the 10 divine artifacts fell from the void and smashed into the Crimson Tide, causing huge waves to surge. Countless treasures splashed out in the tide. They flew everywhere. Divine Eye of Punishment, 5-color divine light, brush. The 5-color divine light flowed between his brows and shot out a purple divine light. The divine light instantly divided into 4 5 elements, divine lights of different colors. It spread out like a peacock spreading its tail. They fanned out in front of him. Whoosh! The divine light swept across the sky, and the power of the 5 elements circulated. The 4 divine lights swept across. Wherever they passed, the treasures flying in the sky were brushed by the 5-color divine light. They did not have the slightest resistance and were directly swept in by the 5-color divine light. It was unknown how many treasures have been swiped away with just this one swipe. Who is this? He is so tyrannical that he dares to use his divine ability to plunder treasures in the Crimson Tide. Is he not afraid of the 10 immortal sects finding trouble with him? This divine light is so familiar. No, could this be the legendary divine light of the Peacock clan, the 5-color divine light? It is divided into the 5 elements. As long as one is in the 5 elements, whether it is a living creature or a treasure, they cannot escape its power. It is almost impossible to escape once they are swept into the divine light. Demonic Chi. What a huge demonic Chi. Could this be a powerful figure of the demon clan? Legend has it that it is comparable to the ancient giants. No, it is a heavenly demon that is stronger than the ancient giants. How could there be a heavenly demon among the demon clan? Could there be a heavenly demon that survived the Great War in the ancient times? Or did those old fellows in the demon realm break free from the shackles and finally return to the source continent? He knows the 5-color divine light. Could it be that his true form is a peacock? Not good. He is plundering treasures. Others can do so, but if the demon clan plunder enough treasures, it will give them a chance to rise again. We can't let this happen. We have to stop him. I can see that the divine light that absorbed the divine soul was also emitted from his body. A heavenly demon must have unparalleled combat strength. There were countless experts hidden in the void. Most of them knew that although the 10 immortal sects had been forced into the Crimson Tide with their powerful divine weapons, the Crimson Tide would not be able to do anything to them in short time. Once they had the chance, they would rush out of the Crimson Tide. At that time, they would still be the 10 immortal sects. However, the appearance of Tion had given them a great shock. The demon clan, a demon clan that was recognized as declining, had suddenly produced a terrifying heavenly demon. This matter was no less shocking to the human clan than the previous declaration of the 100 clans. Compared to the other races, the demon clan was the mortal enemy of the human clan, who had a blood feud that could not be washed away. Humph! A mere heavenly demon. Instead of hiding underground, you came out to show off. Do you really think that there is no one in the human clan? Today, this crown prince will kill you. Suddenly, there were several shocking dragon roars filled with the domineering aura of an emperor. Golden dragons danced wantonly in the void. There were 8 golden dragons in total. Each of them could cause the heavens and earth to collapse. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 544. In particular, the bodies of these golden dragons contain an endless amount of true dragon purple chi. This was a unique power that only emperors, experts who cultivated the emperor's Tao, could condense. The golden dragon formed by the true dragon purple chi naturally had a noble temperament that was superior to all living things. It was as if they were born as the center of the world, the focus of everyone's attention. They were fully deserving of the title of emperors, commanding the myriad of worlds. They naturally emitted the aura of emperors, spreading out in all directions. The terrifying pressure caused the hearts of many experts hidden in the void to waver. They were inwardly shocked. Every golden dragon contained a terrifying power that could cause the fall of an ancient overlord. This is the only eternal imperial dynasty in the heavenly world, the eternal imperial dynasty. The third prince of the 3 princes, Zhu Wuqing, is actually here. It seems like the myriad treasures Crimson Tide has also attracted the attention of the eternal imperial dynasty. Legend has it that the third prince is Zhu Wuqing. He's naturally cruel and emotionless. He's simply capricious and unpredictable. With a single thought, he can kill millions of living beings without any reason. It is said that the eternal imperial dynasty used an Emperor Tao lost art. Back in the ancient times, countless experts of the human race gathered together and deduced it for tens of thousands of years. It is called the Myrtle Imperial Dragon Technique. It's said that in the imperial family, the moment a male is born, the Myrtle Imperial Chi will nourish his flesh and blood. Once he reaches the age of 3, he will officially cultivate this art. There's a total of 9 levels. Every time he reaches the next level, he will be able to condense a true dragon in his body. Once a true dragon is formed, he will instantly become a tribulation-passing expert. Every time a true dragon is added, his cultivation will increase drastically. Once he reaches the 9-dragon sovereign realm, he will become an ancestor god, a peerless expert. There are actually 8 true dragons coiling around Zhu Wuqing's body. He has already reached the 8th level of the Myrtle Imperial Dragon art. His strength has already reached the level of a venerable and ancient overlord. Unbelievable. Those who cultivate the Emperor Dao are incomparably tyrannical. Everything revolves around them. They will never allow an existence that they can't control. This time, I'm afraid that the eternal Imperial Dynasty's crown prince will really have a fierce battle with this heavenly demon. One is a heavenly demon. The other is the crown prince of the everlasting Imperial Dynasty. I wonder who will be stronger. The everlasting Imperial Dynasty is an existence comparable to the 10 great immortal sections. The moment these 8 true dragons that shook the void wantonly flew around, it made a series of surprised shouts that inevitably reached the ears of Sakura and the others. As for the true dragon, it was flying everywhere insolently. Its golden eyes were indifferently staring at Sakura, emitting a valiant pressure. If one looked carefully, it was just like a painting of a true dragon flying to the sky. In the middle of the 8 true dragons was a man in a gray dragon robe with 8 dragons circling around his robe. He exuded a dense emperor chi. He wore a purple gold crown on his head, and his face was as white as jade. His handsome face was cold and emotionless. Beneath his feet was an incomparably mighty war chariot that shook the heavens. Croak, croak, croak. At the front of the chariot, there were actually 9 creatures with 3 black claws pulling the chariot. Their bodies gave off a radiance comparable to that of the sun. They were like incomparably huge crows. The radiance enveloped the war chariot, making it look majestic. It was like a blazing sun that was slowly rising, hanging in the sky and shining upon all living beings. True sun flame, 3-legged golden crow. They're using 3-legged golden crows to pull the war chariot. Di Shitian's pupils contracted after taking a glance at them. Countless terrifying waves rolled in his mind. He could almost recognize the golden crows at a glance. They had 3 claws, and their bodies were constantly emitting dense golden flames. Those flames were the legendary true sun flame. The identity of the 9 crows was obvious. They were the legendary divine birds, one of the top races of the demon race. They were divine birds that were comparable to the dragon race and the phoenix race. 3-legged golden crow. They were also known as the golden crow of the sun because each of them had a magical ability to transform into a blazing sun. In the ancient times, each of them was a powerful existence that suppressed the heavens. However, after the ancient times, there were rumors that the 3-legged golden crows had all gone extinct. He did not expect to see the top royal race of the demon race here. Moreover, there were 9 of them. 9 golden crows were lowly creatures that were used to pull the war chariot. When Di Shitian saw this scene, a nameless karmic fire roared in his heart and surged into his mind. It was as if flames were about to burst out of his body. In the eyes of the golden crows, he could clearly feel a deep sense of sadness. A deep sense of sadness that came from being used to pull the war chariot. They were filled with grief and indignation, but they could not do it. The moment they saw him, they conveyed it to his heart. Lord Heaven Demon, kill us. We don't want to be trampled on by the humans anymore. Kill us quickly. Kill us quickly and free us from the nightmare that has haunted us for countless years. Avenge us. The demon race still has heaven demons. Good. Good. All right. You must lead the demon race out of this hopeless situation. Rise up. You must rise up. We, the demon race, have dominated the myriad of worlds. How can we fall to such a state? Divine thoughts were transmitted from the golden crows to Di Shitian's mind. Even their words carried a kind of desolation of being at the end of the road. However, it was clear that they had not forgotten their original identity. The 3-legged golden crows, as the top royal race of the demon race, had a noble status, a noble bloodline, and extraordinary talent. At this moment, they were enslaved. This feeling had long made them want to commit suicide. However, under the imprisonment, they could not even commit suicide. Now that they saw Di Shirtian, they immediately issued a series of requests. How dare you imprison the royal race of the demon race? Who gave you the guts? Indra's eyes widened in fury as he roared furiously. Boundless divine might swept out from the heavenly punishment divine eye. In an instant, it sealed the space around Prince Wuqing. Huh! That handsome young man's face flashed with anger, but he laughed coldly. This crown prince is the third crown prince of the ancient imperial dynasty, Zhu Wuqing. How can I use an ordinary carriage to travel? These 9 golden crows can pull my carriage. That's the fortune of thousands of lifetimes. It's a supreme fortune. Demon race? You're just a bunch of clowns now. Not only am I going to use them to pull my carriage, I'm going to let them mate with those ignorant wild beasts. What do you do to me? The everlasting Emperor dynasty was immeasurably powerful. They occupied the richest 9 provinces in the heaven realm and condensed the violet chi of true dragons. In the Emperor dynasty, there were countless geniuses, experts, and soldiers. They could contend against the supreme existences of the 10 great immortal sections. It was incomparably tyrannical. Anyone who did not submit would be crushed into dust. Arrogant. As the third prince of the eternal Emperor dynasty, Zhu Wuqing had the right to be arrogant. The 8 true dragons behind him represented that he had stepped into the eternal Emperor realm. He had cultivated the Emperor's Tao to an extremely high level. Those who cultivated the Emperor's Tao would only have one way to deal with anyone who dared to disobey them: suppress. Emperor Dragon Seal. Crown Prince Wuqing didn't hesitate at all. As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his wrist. Dense Emperor Purple Chi rushed out from his body and rose above his head. Then it quickly gathered toward his palm and rolled violently. Within the Emperor Purple Chi, there seemed to be numerous true dragons shuttling back and forth. There were a total of 72 true dragons. These true dragons were connected head to tail. When they gathered together, they formed a purple imperial jade seal that was filled with Emperor's Tao might. Within the imperial jade seal, there were numerous true dragons floating up and down. The true dragon seal looked at the void, and a terrifying divine light shot out from its eyes. When the divine light landed on the void, it actually caused the void to tremble and be destroyed. The boundless aura told all the experts that this imperial jade seal had a terrifying power that could suppress anything. Emperor Dragon Seal. That's the Emperor Dragon Seal. It's a supreme technique of the eternal Emperor dynasty. When cultivated to the extreme, even peerless experts can be suppressed and imprisoned. He actually used such a supreme technique right away. It seems like the third prince isn't careless against this heavenly demon. The Emperor Dragon Seal is too domineering. It directly absorbs true dragon chi and Emperor Purple Chi from a void. It's a supreme technique. Once one learns it, he'll be worthy of being called an expert among the ancient giants. He'll definitely be ranked at the top of the 3 rankings in one chart. True dragons are incomparably powerful. Every single one of them has the power to destroy the heavens and earth. They represent the limit of strength. With a swipe of their claws, no matter how strong a mountain is, it'll be crushed. There are 72 true dragons in this imperial dragon seal. When these true dragons gather together, even the mountains and rivers will collapse. In the void, discussions broke out again. Obviously, everyone was shocked by Crown Prince Wuqing's technique. Boom, boom, boom. Di Shirtian stepped into the void and executed the 8 desolation steps. With every step he took, the energy in his body would instantly double, becoming incomparably powerful. Xiao Chun took 3 consecutive steps. Suddenly, a vast and mysterious force surged out of his body and poured into the Black Lotus. The aura of his entire body swelled up like a balloon. With 3 steps, Di Shirtian's cultivation rose from the early heavenly demon to the middle heavenly demon in an instant. His face was as cold as a knife. He looked coldly at the purple Emperor Dragon Seal and felt the strong pressure from it. There was no fear in his eyes. He said arrogantly, "Those who humiliate the demon clan will be killed without mercy." There was an absolute domineering tone in those words. It was as if he had already decided the other party's fate with a single sentence. Extreme Emperor seal, demonic god seal. Sakura brazenly went up, feeling the tremendous power that suddenly expanded in his body. His mind could clearly feel that in the void, there were countless desires that were surging towards him in a frenzy. Today, I encountered a ghost. In the afternoon, I suddenly felt dizzy and had a terrible headache. I couldn't concentrate. I just wanted to fall into bed. I've been sitting in front of the computer since 7 o'clock. I've only finished one chapter. I really can't take it anymore. As for the second chapter, I can only say sorry. Illness really comes like a landslide. Sorry. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 545. You have the Emperor Dragon Seal, but I also have my own unique skill, the Celestial Demon Seal. Indra's battle intent permeated through the past and present, shaking the sun and moon. His body exuded an aura of might without being angry. His hands rapidly formed hand seals as his 5 fingers moved in the air, creating countless afterimages. The boundless might of an emperor was like tidal waves, shaking the entire space. Crack! Crack! The surrounding void shook violently. As his fingers changed, countless terrifying cracks appeared. As soon as the cracks opened, black gas condensed from the power of desire poured out from the cracks. This power of desire contained immeasurable grief, and it quickly gathered in front of him, turning into mysterious runes in an instant. Rumble. An ancient seal magically condensed under the convergence of countless runes. On this seal, thousands of figures of gods and demons appeared. They seemed to be praying and seemed to be letting out unwilling roars. The vast power of gods and demons instantly poured out and poured into the seal. Like crushing dry weeds, it instantly suppressed the surroundings. Boundless deathly will swept out in all directions. The appearance of the Celestial Demon Seal gave off an aura that was not inferior to the Emperor Dragon Seal. And the most magical thing happened. The moment the Celestial Demon Seal was condensed, Tian felt his mind in a trance, and his surroundings suddenly changed. It was as if he had returned to the time when he played the song, A Man's Walk, in a withered bone wasteland of the southern barbarian lands. He poured out the blood in the hearts of men, triggering the will of countless gods and demons buried underground, and finally created the celestial demon morning. Epiphany. A cultivator might not have an epiphany in their lifetime, but at this moment, with the tyrannical strength of a heavenly demon, it happened to him. Gods and demons were born and nurtured by the heavens. Demons could be gods and demons, immortals could be gods and demons, and Buddhas could be gods and demons. You are a god, and I am a god and demon. Transcending the mortal world was a god and demon. The power of a god and demon could shake mountains and rivers, shake the sun and moon, and drown the world. The Tao of the celestial demon was vast and boundless. The Tao of desire, the power of grief, grieving the heavens, grieving people, grieving gods, grieving ghosts, and grieving demons. All living things had the will of death. I am a demon god, and the heavens cannot destroy me. The earth cannot be buried. In heaven and earth, he only believed in himself. A single palm could defy the heavens. The power of grief and death returns to my body. When I grieve and die, the heavens and earth grieve as well. For a time, countless insights flowed in his mind like a sweet spring, nourishing his mind. His understanding of the god-demon and the power of sorrow reverberated in his mind. His entire body and mind seemed to have been enlightened becoming incomparably clear. It was as if there was a mysterious and indescribable aura circulating in his heart. The god and devil seal that had formed in his hand suddenly turned into a ray of light. It followed the demon vein on his arm and charged into the demon palace in the blink of an eye. It headed straight for the black lotus inside the demon refining furnace. In front of the black lotus, a black light flashed, and the ancient fiend god seal disintegrated, turning into countless mysterious talismans that rushed into the black lotus from all directions. In the air, the boundless power of gods and devils, as well as the power of sorrow, flowed endlessly into Di Shurtian's body, into those talismans in the black lotus. Rumble. At the same time, Sakura only felt that the natal black lotus in his body, as if it was splitting the heaven and earth apart, suddenly exploded. After countless talismans expanded for a while, they suddenly gathered towards the center rapidly. Inconceivably, they condensed into a talisman in the black lotus. On this talisman, there were countless gods and demons on the verge of death, the vivid scene when they were facing the fall. It even perfectly presented the deathly intent. Countless demons and gods formed seals, trying to defy the heavens. In the middle of the talisman was a picture of a fiend god seal. It looked extremely mysterious. Once the talisman was formed, it automatically began to absorb the power of demons and gods and sorrows in the void. After absorbing them into the talisman became even more condensed. The royal true power in the Black Lotus also constantly shuttled through the talisman. Every time it shuttled through, the royal true power became even purer. Boom, boom, boom. However, this wasn't the end. The talisman shook violently, and a tyrannical and horrifying blade intent surged out. A diagram actually appeared on the other side of the talisman as well. That diagram was the horrifying scene of countless fiend gods brandishing their sabers with the intention of cutting through all thorns. At the center was a saber, and countless fiend gods were surrounding the saber. Enlightenment. My fiend god seal has reached the phenomenal level, and even the fiend god mourning, which comes from the same source, has reached the phenomenal level. When the two come together, they have formed a divine power talisman. It can absorb power on its own, and when I use it in the future, I can use it as I wish. With just a thought, I can instantly form the fiend god seal outside my body and wield the fiend god mourning. It can explode with the most domineering power. When Di Shurtian saw the mysterious fiend god talisman in the Black Lotus, he could not help but be overjoyed. Any unique skill or cultivation technique, when cultivated to a high level and fully comprehended the mystery of it, could be condensed into a talisman in one's body and primordial spirit. Once the talisman was condensed, it meant that one had cultivated the unique skill to the great completion realm. At that time, the talisman itself would be able to absorb the same kind of energy from the void and integrate it into the talisman, making the talisman even stronger. Naturally, the power of the talisman would be even more powerful when it was used. Good, good, good. The heavens are on my side. Once the Fiend God talisman is formed, I can use the Fiend God seal as I wish. Heaven and earth suppress, suppress, suppress. In an instant, the aura on his body became more condensed, and the majesty of an emperor was released without reservation. It rushed to the sky, and there were waves of overbearing tiger roars above his head. The aura of a king suppressed all directions. With a thought, the Fiend God talisman in the Black Lotus shook, and a strange power immediately spurted out from the talisman. It rushed through the demon vein and quickly rushed into his palm. In his hand, a Fiend God seal was formed, which was exactly the same as before. Moreover, the charm of this Fiend God seal was even more terrifying than before. The figure of the Fiend God in the seal became clearer, and an endless sense of death that swept across the great thousand worlds spread out from the ancient seal. Everywhere it went, even the ancient powerhouses could not help but feel sad in their hearts as they recalled their tragic experiences in the past. The power of desire was all-pervasive. The power of desire was strange, and the overbearing power of the fiend god. It was condensed in an ancient seal. The power of this ancient seal could be imagined. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it happened in the blink of an eye. With a flip of his hand, the fiend god seal left his hand and rapidly grew, covering the sky and earth. With a boom, it bombarded the emperor dragon seal that was coming at him. Rumble! Under the collision of the two ancient seals, the void collapsed. Large pieces of it collapsed and were annihilated, erupting with a terrifying destructive power. The roar sounded like countless thunderbolts. The roar of the fiend god and the overbearing roar of the dragon. One after another, the figure of the fiend god and the true dragon were entangled in the void. A fierce battle broke out. Bang! This kind of collision was incomparably fierce. The two ancient seals were the most domineering ultimate arts in the world. The power that erupted from the collision was also the most terrifying. However, after the two ancient seals collided for a while, they were annihilated together. The fiend god seal and the emperor dragon seal were evenly matched. Again, fiend god seal. When Sakura saw that the fiend god seal and emperor dragon seal were annihilated at the same time, there was no surprise on his face. He still had that aloof and cold expression. With a thought, the fiend god talisman and the black lotus vibrated again. That unique power gushed out again, condensing another fiend god seal in his hand. This was the true power of the talisman, formed by the perfection stage of a cultivation technique. As long as one had enough power, they could continuously attack again and again. The fiend god seal left Di Shirtian's hand, spinning and expanding violently. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a vast mountain. Its overbearing aura shook the void as it appeared above Zhu Wuqing's head. A seal suddenly pressed down on him. Boom, boom, boom. The fiend god's seal dominated the world. It was as if there were countless fiend gods around the ancient seal, pushing it to suppress all things. Sun Chariot, break all spells. When Zhu Wuqing saw this, his expression changed slightly. He thought to himself, to continuously use such a domineering ultimate technique, this heaven demon must have already condensed a divine ability talisman in his body and comprehended this ultimate technique to the great perfection realm. However, my Sun Chariot has suppressed all things and is unbreakable. Today, I will break your ancient seal. With a stomp of his feet, he controlled the 9 golden crows pulling the chariot. Each of the 9 golden crows was a monster saint. At this moment, they were controlled by Zhu Wuqing and could not resist at all. They could only let out a cry of grief and indignation. They had no choice but to flap their wings and release the overbearing true sun fire into the chariot. In an instant, the chariot turned into a blazing sun. In the center of the sun, Zhu Wuqing stood like a god of the sun. He looked down on the heavens. He rose slowly and crashed into the fiend god seal. The rolling true sun fire burst out. The terrifying blazing aura caused all the moisture in the air to evaporate in an instant. Even the crimson tide was roasted by the true sun fire, causing the water level to drop by dozens of feet. In the eyes of the strong cultivators, what they saw was an ancient seal and a terrifying sun colliding fiercely. The 9 golden crows and the sun chariot combined the power of Zhu Wuqing to form a terrifying golden sun. The power contained in it could dry up the earth and directly roast the plants, completely incinerating them. There was nothing in the world that could stop its sharpness. The fiend god seal contained the power of thousands of fiend gods. The fiend gods were against the heavens. Nothing in the world could make them submit and suppress everything. However, when the true sun fire burst out from the power of the 9 golden crows, the two collided. The fiend god seal trembled violently, and countless golden true sun fire splashed in all directions. However, the terrifying true sun fire quickly melted the power contained in the ancient seal. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.